Okay.
All right. Looks like we're live.
Yep.
I think you got to share your screen though, Lance. I can't see any of the video feed.
Wait, why do you need to see the video feed?
Well, I'm watching on Twitch. I can't see us.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
What is happening? It was working like 5 seconds ago. Hold up. I got
Oh,
him. Oh, I know what's happening. Hold on.
no technical
Uh,
difficulties, dude. It's our first day.
hold up. Pop out.
We
Sometimes
got
you
to get
gotta.
Show to come help you, dude.
Sometimes you gotta pop
Oh, there
out
we
of
go.
them.
There we go. Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
Great.
How's the audio sound? Everything
Yeah.
sound good,
Everyone, if
boys?
Poe, if you can say a few words, we can just get the audio balance.
A few words.
Nice.
There we go.
Those are the.
Sound good?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Chat. How's that sound? Good.
Yep. Testing. Testing.
Testing, testing.
Okay. Bub says it sounds good. Good.
Increase Poe.
Kang says turn Poe up. Mute
Okay.
Lance. Okay. We can do that. We can do that.
Okay. Welcome to the Lance and Ray podcasts featuring Poe22222.
Oh my god, what a weak intro, Lance. Jesus Christ. No energy, dude. I swear.
This is
Welcome to another episode of
this
the
is an intellectual.
podcast.
That was the intellectual version.
Lance and Ray featuring Poe22222.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Lance and Ray podcast, which I've been mistakenly referring to as the Ray and Lance
Oh,
podcast.
ooh, no!
Sorry,
You gotta put the headliner up front. Like
The headliner, no one goes like the headliner is the last band, right?
I
Like
don't
you're on the
know.
undercard, Lance. You're not gonna put a Tyson fight first, right? Like everybody just goes home after. So you lead with Lance and you get the people what they want, which is Ray. So
Uh,
anyway, though, we're gonna get into this episode of the podcast featuring my good friend Poe. Recently came back from Japan. We're gonna be talking about his journeys over there. Spent a couple of weeks over there. Got to play in a co-op. Just happened. So Poe's gonna kind of give us a scoop on what's going on over there. But first, we want to get things kicked off. Kind of talk about your life story, how you found Third Strike. But first, let's just get into your name first, Poe. Poe. Why 5-2s? Everyone always asks me this. Why does Poe's name have 5-2s? Can you kind of break that down for me first?
yes, there's a very specific reason. And I always thought it was kind of a dumb reason, but whenever I share it, people kind of like it. So, first of all, Poe was a junior high nickname of mine, just given to me by some random kid in gym class because my first name's Allen. So he called me Edgar Allan
Edgar Allan
Poe,
Poe.
and then it
Makes sense.
became Poe. And it's just one of those things where sometimes things just stick, and it stuck. So I wanted to, there were also several Allens in my class. So it kind of helped, differentiate.
Yeah.
So this was during peak AOL Instant Messenger time, and I'd had several screen names before this, but I wanted one with Poe, and my favorite number at the time was 2. So I tried Poe 2, and I figured that would be taken, and it was taken. So then I tried Poe 22, that was taken. I tried Poe 222, that was taken. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna put so many 2s that there's like no way it'll be taken. So I skipped 4 2s and went straight to 5 2s.
There you
And
go.
sure enough, it was available. I'd found my match.
Yep.
And then that became like my Gmail account, my first Gmail. That became my PSN when I played Street Fighter 4, which we'll get to. And then when I came back this time, like I certainly would have maybe picked, like Demon of Destruction, something like that.
Like
But
something hardcore with some X's
yeah,
in it.
yeah, XXX American Demon XXX, but then Alabama Akuma maybe. Um but um then people started knowing me, by that name, and like when I came back to play again, I wanted people who I'd played before, who I'd met before to like recognize me. So it would have been a great time to rebrand, but I decided that like just continuing the name consistency was, that one out. So I'm still Poe22222.
That's awesome. So, been using the screen name since basically you're a kid.
Yep.
Kind of talk to me about how you find fighting games because you mentioned Street Fighter 4 earlier. So, assume that's not your first fighting game though. Did you start out in the arcades? Did you play Super Nintendo like the rest of us, or?
Mm-hmm. So it's, fighting games, and the reason I was excited to answer this question is because like fighting games have had such a strangely powerful place in my life, like at these different times. And I discovered fighting games in a way that probably a lot of kids did, which was a guy in my first grade class had a birthday party at a mall arcade where you got unlimited tokens for like 2 hours. And I was really excited for the party, and I went. And when I first walked into the arcade, they had several setups of a new game at the time, which was Mortal Kombat 1.
Hey.
And immediately I was like, this looks super cool. And I played it like pretty much all afternoon from what I can recall. And I remember like telling my parents about it. I was like, I just played like the coolest game, and I know it's a little violent, but it's like, it's super fun. And there was a guy there, like an older guy, who showed me some moves and stuff. Um, and basically, like, I was a really anxious kid. I was like really struggling socially in school and stuff like that. And my parents could tell how much I loved playing Mortal Kombat, and I got into Street Fighter very soon after. And they were like, look, if you sort of behave in school and like tough it out, like, we'll make sure we keep taking you to the arcade. They bribed me with the arcade. So I started going to the arcade a lot, and I ended up discovering, my parents actually found out about this. There was a comic book store near where I lived where they had Mortal Kombat for 1 quarter. It was 50 cents, almost everywhere else. But the 1 quarter, that's big savings, right? So my parents started taking me to this comic book store, and which I thought was really funny because it seemed like kind of random to me. But now I know that like World's Finest Comics in Los Angeles was like the hotbed of Street Fighter 2, and it was like a total thing back then, to play in comic book stores. And like basically I met the manager of that store. His name is Michael Noah, and I want to say his name in case he ever watches this. But this guy, I thought he was like my parents' age, but he was 20. So he was like a kid basically. But this guy like took me under his wing. He was a very, very good fighting game player. He would let me hang out there all day, even though I was like a really young kid. He like was super nice to me and like played with me all the time and taught me stuff. And I became a really good fighting game player. And it was like a huge kind of turning point in my life, to be honest, because I was kind of not doing great at the time. But like having, and then because he accepted me, so did like the other kids basically that hung out there. And it was just like this huge kind of self-esteem building thing for me because I could get lost in the fighting games, they and to this day I feel that way. Like when I play, it just like I get consumed by it in like the coolest way, right? So I actually ended up winning a Mortal Kombat tournament in Birmingham, Alabama. Mortal Kombat 1. Johnny Cage was my play as my character. I did the double head glitch. You can knock off their head
Oh
twice,
yeah,
fatality. Um, and like all the other kids, they like held me up on their shoulders and stuff, and it was like really one of my first outside of stuff with like my parents, it was like one of the first really positive memories, in my life. Um so I was yeah. And then Mortal Kombat 1 got replaced by Super Street Fighter 2 at the comic book store. I loved that. But then, I played Killer Instinct 1. That was fun. I played Orchid and did she had this crazy like combo loop that I remember loving. But then like Primal Rage replaced it.
Hell yeah.
And I fighting games like, arcades started dying out. Like
Mm.
Michael, the manager that like changed my life, he moved to a different store, and the arcades kind of started dying, and I just kind of got away from it, after
Mm.
a few years. Um,
And
I
where
did
were
have
these arcades at? Was this in Alabama or was this
Yep,
in Okay, okay. Cool.
Birmingham, Alabama. Every mall, malls were huge
Mhm.
in Birmingham. There were like 4 or 5 malls that everybody went to, and when you went there, at least for me, it was like you go to the music store and then you go to the arcade, basically. So, um, but yeah, the arcade culture, started dying out, and I didn't like the games as much. And so eventually, I did have it on Super Nintendo though as well, and I've shown people a picture of this. I had this like I bought an arcade stick for Super Nintendo. It was like this super crappy arcade stick that you could get for Super Nintendo, and I would play that like before school. And yeah, I just loved playing. I would play the computer. I would play like who I just loved fucking ripping DPs, A lot of fun. So
Awesome.
Okay.
so then I got away from it for some time. I got into RPGs, and then like in high school I was like doing sports and all that stuff. And so then the second moment that happened was in college. I was like finishing up college, and I'm in New York at this point, and I saw a poster in a GameStop near my apartment for Street Fighter 4 on console. And I swear I had like it like touched something in me, like I saw Ken and Ryu, and I was like, that would really hit the spot right now, like that would be super cool. So I bought it, and I started thinking like, I'll bet there's like a whole scene now,
Mm.
for fighting games. Like, so I just YouTubed, like top fighting game players or something like that. And that was it. Like within a few weeks, I like went to Chinatown Fair for the first time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I, like I bought a stick. At first I was playing on pad on Wi-Fi, and I was playing Ryu, and I saw like Daigo doing the FADC Hadouken Ultra,
That's
and
a
I
good
could
one.
yeah, I could not do it on pad, and it was so frustrating. But I got a stick. I switched to Akuma, which we can get into that later. But basically, like I got pretty involved. I went to locals. I
Mhm.
I played online like a ton, and I loved it. It was amazing, and I was so blown away that like these famous players. In fact, like I went to a tournament, and then after the fact I realized I was on YouTube, and I was like, "Oh, that guy Yipes, he was at that tournament."
Mhm.
Like I was surrounded by all these like really important players. And yeah, I dove in. I played all the time. I was a little bit too nervous, and sort of I was also not in a great place in my life in college, and I was a little bit disorganized with like practicing, and I was kind of nervous to like travel. Like I would sort of put myself out there a little bit and then kind of like retreat to online. But I loved it. I went to Evo twice. That was amazing. And that's when OE came out. So finally we're to Third Strike. I had seen videos of obviously the Daigo parry, but not just that. Like just watching Third Strike, there was just something about it that looked awesome. Like the way the movement was, like there was just something about it that really attracted me. So when OE came out, I got it, and I still considered it was like Street Fighter 4 was all the rage. So it was kind of hard to like say, "Oh, I'm going to stop this and play Third Strike," but like really I liked Third Strike better, pretty quickly. I still love Street Fighter 4. Great game. I had a lot of great times with it. But Third Strike, I don't have to tell you guys, it just felt perfect. So played a lot of OE for a year and a half, 2 years. And then I'd mentioned to Lance before we started, excuse me,
There you go.
I was like a lot of people know in the scene I'm actually sober, and that was kind of something that was going on at that time. And so when I kind of hit a point, I was in my mid 20s, and it was like I kind of need to get my life together a little bit and stop playing fighting games online all day. So I like kind of put it aside. I didn't swear it off or anything,
Mm.
but I kind of put it aside, and I just didn't play for 10 years. I just never went back to it. I was focused on my career, other things. And then about 3 years ago, I happened to see a friend of mine post a link to Evo. It was a guy I'd met at Evo '09. I met him one time. Kieran from NorCal. He plays Q, if any of you guys know him. But he posted like it's Evo Finals Day or whatever on Facebook. And I was just like with the Street Fighter 4 poster. I was like, I want to watch that. I was like, I think
Yeah.
that would be really fun. So I clicked on it. It was like just before grand finals of Street Fighter 5. I've still to this day never played a game of Street Fighter 5, but
You're not missing anything. No, that's good. Yeah.
but I got so into it. I was like feeling every interaction. Like I'm hearing James Chen. I'm like watching, the Oki stuff. And it was an amazing set. Idom versus Kawano. It came down to like final round, I think. And I got so into it. It made me so happy. And then I just got so sad that like I don't play anymore. It was like, man, I gave up this thing that I've loved so much in my life. And I started thinking like, fuck it. What if I played again? Like I'm in a good place in my life. I'm not like where I was before. And I ordered a stick and got on Fightcade, and here I am. So that's my fighting game journey. There's a million bullet points, to all that, but it's been so I started playing fighting games 32 years ago, and I've only played for like 10 of those 32 years, but it's always been like I go hard when I play, and it's just always been, one of my favorite things in this whole world.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's really interesting that you played Street Fighter 2, then of course a few other pit stops into Street Fighter 4, and then coming back to Third Strike. Now that's something I've always kind of wondered how often that happened because right, Third Strike when it first came out, I wasn't around, but everything you read about it says it was kind of a dark horse. America didn't really jive with it for years. So I, there's like, of course, there's like the Daigo Perry generation. Like, there's like generations of Third Strike. There's like people who've been playing forever, like from the beginning, maybe like J.R. Rodriguez or players like that. And then you have like the Daigo Perry, and that's a big influx. We had a recent influx of Smash players in the last 5 years. It kind of coincided with the Fightcade 2 thing. And that's been part of the Jazzy growth as well. It's all kind of interconnected. But there was, I think, less talked about but still present OE generation. That's
Mhm.
players like myself. Sounds like you started playing Third Strike right when OE came out. B-Tran, Katie Alpha, a lot of players who at this point have been around for a while, or like in your case, you came back, really started with OE. And now I remember when I was starting, I accidentally stumbled onto the SRK forums, and that's when I first kind of observed you, is that you were active on the SRK forums for Third Strike. So I was kind of aware of you at that point. So yeah, I guess talk to me a little bit about that. Just like what was that experience like? Do you have any fond memories of the SRK forums from that era?
So that's hilarious that you remember me from SRK. But yeah, it's like the generation thing. I think there are some sort of like reverse '09ers, which was kind of, and with me, that's why I was excited to kind of tell my story, because it's like am I OG? Am I an 09er? Like, but I also haven't played Third Strike like all that long, you know? So it's like I don't even know what I am. But yeah, like SRK was a hoot, you know? It definitely like could be a little scary at times. Like I remember seeing some very aggressive rants and things like that. But you know, I loved SRK and I still miss it because I feel like the forums are so much better than like Twitter or Discord in terms of like collating knowledge. You know, you could go into the Akuma, like I was pretty active in the SF4 and Third Strike Akuma section, and there were these posts pinned at the top, you know, these are the combos that work on different characters and stuff. And there just wasn't, you didn't have to like fucking, you know, go into like the ancient Greek library, you know, to piece together like what is real. It was just pretty like solid, but it was an amazing place to, it just felt like everybody who was serious was there, and like almost everybody who was there was serious. You know, they might not be like an elite player, but it was just like um all these serious players. And what a really funny story. So when I came back a few years ago, I immediately like tried to go to SRK
Okay.
and
Yeah.
found it was on. So it's like, okay, well, I missed that.
Mhm.
And that was a bummer. But what was really funny was there were a few like Third Strike Akuma things that I was trying to remember as far as like what combos are possible and like just some technical things. And I Googled it like on the archived SRK forum, and I found me asking Farai the exact question that I had
Yeah.
in like 2012. So yeah, me and Farai were buddies on SRK, and I met him and Ryan Bracamonte and Duralath and a couple other guys at Evo 2012. There was no um, Third Strike tournament at Evo 2012, but we just, you know, I did Street Fighter 4, and then we played in like a hotel room. Um, but yeah, like SRK like introduced me to those guys, and then like when I came back, you know, me and Ryan had kept in touch mostly about like hockey and Michael Jackson. We're both Michael Jackson fans. So
Hell yeah.
like, oh yeah, he's the goat. So
Mhm.
we kept in touch just like very loosely, you know, over the
Mhm.
years. And so, you know, when I came back, like I just DM'd them, you know, it's like, guess what? Like I play Third Strike again. And, you know, then I ended up reuniting with them. I've met them 2 times ever.
Mhm.
Evo 2012 and then in Tokyo like a couple weeks ago. So, yeah, it was a great knowledge base, knowledge source, and it certainly like can bring it, you know, it brought me some friends and stuff. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I liked it. What did you think of SRK?
Yeah, I mean, I was very new, right? So, I think I had, I think I had observed very early. Poe's really nice. What a really nice guy. And I was very new, so I was very nice as well. I just didn't know anything. Uh,
Mhm.
Okay,
I just,
you hadn't been hardened yet.
right. Well, I think it's a really interesting time period for Third Strike because, you know, obviously there's the Daigo Perry years, the Evo years, and this is Third Strike's the mainstream game. You go back and watch some of those videos, and they have like a lot of viewership. And it was a very active game in that time period. And then from like Summer Jam 2015 onward, it's what I kind of think of as like the modern era, and this is where like, um, the like Kang and the New York players kind of started with that, and that kind of eventually evolves into TFC. That eventually kind of evolves into Jazzy, and all these things kind of build on each other. It's a very active game now, right? It's it's niche, but it's a very active game again. Um, but that time period in between was something of a dark age for Third Strike in a way. But I think what's really interesting is what people were doing, the really dedicated players were doing during that time period to keep the game alive. So you mentioned you met Ryan at Evo 2012, and yeah, like I was laughing to myself while you were describing that because that was my experience. Like the first tournament I went to, first time I ever traveled for Third Strike was Ryan being like, "Hey, like come out, hang out with me, Farai, and the guys at Evo 2014." And at that point there was a tournament. There was like an LCD, CPS4. Joe Flores, he was running a tournament at that point, and we played in that. But mostly we played in the Hooters hotel room. I don't know if you guys went to Hooters as well, but no. Okay. That was the mainstay for the
I,
2 years
I,
I went.
I
So
wish I had for
Yeah.
sure.
it's it
But
yeah.
I
Yeah.
believe
Who
I
won that tournament, Lance? Who won that tournament?
So there was no Hooters tournament the first year. That was 2014.
Mhm.
2015, I won, but I was the only sober person in the room. So I beat like I don't remember who I beat, but it was like Mopreme, Mommy, Ryan, Hold That was there, and I won by just being because especially early on, I'm a little nervous too when I first meeting all these people. So they're all drunk and having a good time, and I'm like I don't really drink much, so they're wasted. I somehow I steal that tournament from very drunk. I mean we're talking drunk levels of like Ryan picks for you against me. He thinks he picks Denjin, but he picks Shinku, so he back throws me into the corner, does Fireball Super, and the Shinku just flies over my head, and then I win the round. Like that's how drunk they were. It's not a serious win. Um,
Um,
yeah, but anyway, that was not the point of that. That was not where that story was going. Um, the point was like Ryan actually during that time period was doing these things. Like he was kind of collecting players still at that point in a very low point of the game. And the same thing with East Coast. Like you go back at that time period and you can watch like the New York guys throwing like East Coast console tournaments, and you can see like like Fubar Duck was at one of them and that kind of stuff. I think that's a really interesting time period for Third Strike. And I mean, I might be wrong about this. My feeling is that Online Edition kind of started a chain reaction of events. Like okay, now we can play online on console. Like there was GGPO, so maybe that's a link in the chain as well, right? GGPO, Online Edition, Summer Jam 2015, TFC, Jazzy. Now we've added 3SO to it. I don't know. I guess I'm just kind of thinking out loud, but yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, dude, as you're describing this is kind of a funny analogy, but it almost reminds me of like some of the things I've read about like the spread of early Christianity or something where it's like just a couple people like keep the text alive, like and then it's like really popular and then it's like about to die out again, but then like there's some guy that like converts a bunch of people, it's like it was hanging by a thread,
Mm-hmm.
but it's all these things that add up. Um, you definitely know more about the history than I do, but I can say, when I played back in the OE days for a couple years, like I would go to next level and I would play Street Fighter 4, but I was really excited to play Third Strike. And honestly, like there were times when like so I did meet Nika back then, and there were times when it would just be like Nika and like Duke
Mm-hmm.
Hardbread. He was there. He would play Dudley. He was rocking Dudley back then too. Then Anthony moved here, Mutant XP. I was active and met Anthony like right when he moved to New York.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it'd be like three people, but I feel like, there's so many people that deserve a lot of credit. Um, Nika being one, Anthony Mutant XP being one, who like just refused to give up on the game. And so all that's to say, like when I decided to play fighting games again in 2022, I was like, I didn't know what to play, but I was kind of hoping that Third Strike was still active. And like I did some Googling and like went on Reddit, there's no SRK. So I'm like, well, where do I go to like find out what's happening? But, I went on Reddit and I heard about Fightcade and stuff like that. And, I wasn't that surprised that Third Strike was still active because I remembered how people like Farai, people like Ryan, Anthony, kept playing the game. And then fast forward, I'm playing on Fightcade. I'm like, wow, it's really active. Um, And then after a few weeks, I was like, you know, remembered how to play like to some degree. I mean, it was still, nothing like now, but like I was getting back to like a decent level of just like, knowing how to play. And I had played a lot, so a lot of it was still in there. But so then I'm like, I found out about Brooklyn Games and Arcade, and there was a tournament. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go to this tournament. So I go to the tournament, and as I'm going in, at this point, I'm like B rank on Fightcade. I'm like, certainly losing, but also winning a decent amount on Fightcade. So I'm like, this tournament could have like 10 people, and I might like win this tournament, like who knows? Or it could be like a really stacked tournament or whatever. So, but I kind of figured it would not be that stacked. I don't know. But I walk in, the first person I see when I walk in, first of all, it's packed. There are like tons of people. The first person I see is Nika KO on like a 25 game win streak. And I'm like, there he is,
Mhm.
and then I like turn to my right and I see like Mutant XP and Frankie sitting there talking. And I'm like, I'm probably not going to win today, but like this is awesome, like there were like 25, 30 people, Shinebox, like, and I didn't know who any of these people were, but like Shinebox, Keychain, Creaky Axe, Daisuke. I met Daisuke that night, and he played me like 2 games, and he was like, who are you? Like, what's your name? And I was like, oh, I'm Poe, I used to play. And he was like, that's awesome, man. Like, you know, come keep coming. Like he gave me his number. So anyway, the point of all that is that like there were fucking 3 people playing Third Strike in 2011, 2012. And then somehow I come back to that.
Mhm.
And that's why I've like told Anthony and these guys, I'm like, it's wild that like you doing what you did allowed me, like I'd be playing Street Fighter 6 if
Sure.
this hadn't happened. But instead, like I walk in and I find this thriving community, and very, very grateful for that.
Yeah, yeah.
Bless them for that.
I thought about that a lot. Like it's been on my mind of like why has Third Strike, like from my point of view, Third Strike has strived or thrived in the last 10 years. It's really and I thought about like why is that, and it's probably a little bit of everything. I mean, Third Strike's been very lucky with how events have unfolded with online play, right? Like Third Strike had GGPO, and then Fight or OE, which was very good, for what it was. It had we had Fightcade, which was not so good. We had Fightcade 2, which is also pretty good. So we've had a consistent online version to play this game. Online's a really big part of community growth, I think. But then I think it's fair to give credit to like a small handful of guys, like like you said, your Nika KOs, your Mutants, your Ryans, your Kang.
Gang.
Yeah, I think all of them
Yeah.
have been really big community leaders. 5 Star Pyro in LA, and the guy, all those guys. There's these collection of players, but there's these personalities that have really put a lot of effort into keeping the game alive and then growing it. I mean, yeah, we have gotten lucky, right? Like I think about CVS2, right? The CVS2 basically just did not have an online version forever, and now the game is anyway. You know what I mean? Like Third Strike gotten lucky, but also I think we've had a few people who are willing to go above and beyond, and that's kind of where we are now.
it I owe such a debt, to those people. And it's just crazy when you think about like all of the individual people who gave what they did, and just sort of this chain, like you said, it's like a chain. And like when I think about, I mean, just with me specifically, like I talked about my mentor at the comic book store, or people like that. And then for the bigger scene, like Daisuke welcoming me, he was like really nice to me that night. And I was nervous as crap, to go to that tournament. So like the fact that he like gave me some props and was like, I want you here, like that really got me off to a great start. Like I left that night feeling like I'm back, like this is awesome.
Yeah.
So there's all these people, and I'm going to turn some spotlight to you guys. I mean, what you guys are doing in Dallas is like so inspiring. And like when I see, of obviously Third Strike Open, which awesome announcement about Third Strike Open coming up at the end of the show, um,
Oh,
is already like epic as fuck. But then when I just tune into the weeklies, I see all these people in Ray's garage. I see the arcade streams, and it's like there's something special happening there, and it's like because of you guys and Yuki and Sunny, and it's just really cool. Like there are times when so I watched the Smash Brothers documentary a couple years ago, and I loved that documentary. Like it was so cool. And I was like a little jealous of it at times because it's like, man, these guys are like a part of something so cool, like at the bottom floor. And like increasingly, I feel like I am in that, for Third Strike. Like I feel like there could be a documentary done about like the Dallas Third Strike scene, and it would be like engaging as fuck, like it's just really special what we're a part of, and it takes everybody. So thank you guys.
Okay, awesome. Wasn't expecting that. We'll take it.
yeah, appreciate it, appreciate it. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
say what you will about the Smash scene, but like, especially when it comes to Melee, right? Like, there's something about like Melee where I'm like, okay, these guys have been playing this game for what 20 plus years at this point. They don't want to play the new one. They're just like us, where it's like, I know it's new and it's exciting to certain people, but it's not what I'm about. I'm about what I love, and that's the game that I grew up playing or whatever. So I just love to see the Smash community still lugging their CRTs around, still trying to make it happen. Nintendo trying to shut them down, and then just like, hey, fuck you. We're gonna keep throwing our tournaments because this is what we love to do, and keeping the game alive after so long. So I know, I talk a lot of shit on the Smash scene, but when it comes to Melee, like I do respect their hustle when it comes to that and their passion for it.
Oh, they have the history of Melee, like
Mhm.
just like with there are all these eras. There's like the early days with Ken, and then the Five Gods era, and it's still going so strong, and it's a little different, what we do. It's not a one-to-one comparison, but I feel like we're a part of something really special like that. Going to Japan made me feel that way even more. That's actually another thing I'll mention, that like I think that Japan keeping it alive like has helped us keep it alive.
Yeah.
The fact that they still care so much, really, to me, it sort of like legitimizes the game in a very cool way. Not that you need that, but like I don't know, I imagine during the dark years here when like there weren't a lot of tournaments, but then you turn on Co-op Cup and it's like these legends are still at it, like going so hard, and they have this huge tournament. It's like it makes it feel like it matters. um Going to Japan probably gave people in the US a goal to strive for when we didn't have Jazzy or we didn't have Third Strike Open. And I think now, you know, someone told me, I don't know if this is true. I believe it though, that like Matsuda loves when foreigners come to, his arcade and to Co-op Cup because it makes him feel like it matters. It's like, dude, people are coming from like halfway around the world for my Third Strike tournament, So it's like, you know, we can also give back to them by going basically. And like I know that like Genki was really excited. A lot of people were tweeting like the foreigners are like so good now and like it's actually like that makes it more fun for them. They don't want to just blow us out of the water, like it's something some of them might, but it's like it's something it gives them some fresh, you know, fresh blood, like fresh people to play, So yeah, it's like it's also a worldwide effort, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. Well, okay. Now that we're on that topic, let's kind of transition into that. So you just went to Japan. That was your first visit, right?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, talk to us about your experience there. I kind of want to hear your thoughts about Japanese Third Strike, what your feeling about Cooperation Cup was. Also, I want to hear your feelings about Japan in general because I have my own thoughts. So I want to hear yours. So let's start there.
Yeah. um, so when Co-op Cup was announced, I immediately thought I should go, because like I'm able to right now, like I was able to move around work stuff and I don't have kids and stuff like that. But I was just kind of lazy about, booking it. I don't know. There's just something, it's like a little intimidating or whatever. But quick sidebar, like I didn't have a team, I actually want to mention to you guys something that I think's pretty cool, which is me meeting the Japanese players at Third Strike Open actually like did a lot to make me feel comfortable and inspired to go there. Like, Genki was like really encouraging of my play and was like so friendly, and Mokutaro, all of them, but it really made it feel more accessible. And I basically was starting to think like I was really enjoying playing, and I was like, man, I think I should go. I really should go. Like it's kind of last minute, but I really should go. And right after I thought that, Gavin reached out to me to talk about teaming up. And I was like, I'm going, So I booked it. I DM'd Genki. I DM'd all the Third Strike Open guys, and like Genki was all of them were. They were so excited that I was coming, and that like really meant a lot. And so before I even went, and Genki was telling me about all the people I would get to meet and stuff. So before I even went, I was just like, this is going to be fucking incredible, So, and like, why didn't I book this immediately? But anyway, I, right away, the first night, and I will say this, I spent 90% of my time there on Third Strike, and I don't regret a moment of that. Like I did do some touring, and I'm certainly glad I did that, but when I got there, I rested up at the hotel and then like immediately went to Game Newton. I met Billy Kane, who was kind of like a Twitter friend of mine. We'd like, DM'd over the last year or two, and I was like really excited to meet him. And he happened to be like standing outside the arcade when I got there. I was like trying to find like, where is this place? It's kind of like down these stairs, And then I kind of locked eyes with this guy, and he was like, "Oh, hey." It's like, "Oh, Billy Kane, what's up?" Um, and yeah, from the get-go, I went downstairs, like Taihei was there, welcoming Billy Kane, and then was like very welcoming to me. There were just a couple people there at the start of the night, like Zoshima, the Australian Yoon, was there, and Julian. And then people started filing in, like Manma showed up, although I didn't know it was Manma, and people started coming in. And I mean, the first session alone, like that first night, I played KO, I played Mester, I played Tominaga a bunch, I played Rao a bunch, and I played all of them a lot. And honestly, like the whole trip was worth it from like that first session, basically. It was just like, okay, this is awesome. And I think it really helped. My mindset was I didn't feel any pressure. I was just going to like, I really set the intention of like, yeah, I want to try to play my best, but I want to have fun, like meet these people. And I really started playing well. I think it helped. I had been preparing a shit ton for the Chicago auto qualifier, which was like right before that, and playing on cab all weekend there. And unfortunately, I came up just short in second place of winning the auto qual, but I played really well there, and I felt just really good going into it. And yeah, the first night, like I played well. I connected with some of the other players, like Tominaga and I are having like crazy games with like huge comebacks and like goofy shit, and we're laughing, and it was on from there, it just only got better from there. So yeah, if there are any specific questions about like the different events or the level of play or whatever, I'm all ears.
Okay.
Were you kind of starstruck when you first got there? I remember just like walking down like the stairs for like the first time and going in and like this is the place from the videos. You know what I mean? Like we've been watching this for years. Like I've been wanting to travel to Japan to play Third Strike since I was like a little kid. So like finally getting there, getting inside Game Newton, seeing the place, the layout and everything, meeting everyone. I was like starstruck. Did you really have kind of any of that or no?
A little bit. It's interesting. So I certainly have watched Japanese footage, but I
Mm.
would say it hasn't been one of my main learning tools or one of my main activities. So, I wasn't as familiar with some of the players as some people. Um, and I also think that um, I tend to do better, and I'm working on this. I'm working on it, but I tend to do better when like playing top players and when I kind of feel like there's no pressure on me. Um, that said, and it also helped, like, I'm jet lagged as fuck, and it was all like it all happened so fast that I didn't really have like that much time. And I had like just been in Chicago. It was
Mm.
crazy. Like, right after Chicago ended, I was like, holy shit, I'm about to go to Japan. Like, but
Yeah.
I was so focused on Chicago. So I didn't have time to get in my head about it too much. But yeah, there were definitely a few times, like, I mean, when KO showed up the first night, it was just like, damn, like, that's
Yeah.
KO.
Um,
But I think like when Boss rolled in, that was one that was pretty epic. But like, I also think that playing in the US, like playing in New York, um, and with the offline experience that I have, like, I mean, I've played on stages and like, dude, the locals here, like that first local I described, I walk into the first local and it's like Nika, Mutant XP, Frankie, Daisuke, and I can say even more definitively, having been to Japan, like those guys are world class. Still, I still feel that way after playing all the best in Japan. Not trying to make any direct hierarchy, but like Nika and Frankie and those guys, they're really fucking good. And so I think that helped me a little bit. Like I went in more starstruck maybe personally, like cuz I didn't want to bother them or do any weird gaijin shit. Um,
same, same.
but gameplay wise, I just felt like, I like I've played really great players, like I feel really good about my play. I know I'm going to lose, but everybody's losing, everybody's taking games off each other and like I just want to play my best and see how it goes and that mentality, worked well for me.
Was there any specific players that made you feel like helpless? Like there's some players here in the States where I'm like, fuck, I can't
Mhm.
touch them. And then over there I had a couple that I ran into that was like, man, like I do pretty okay against some people. I'm winning games here and there, and there's some where I'm like, I'm losing, but I'm competitive. Was there any players that you just felt like, man, this is just I'm just not getting this back home. I don't know how to play against this character or this person. So
There are a couple and it's kind of funny actually who they are. One of them in casuals was Cooney.
okay.
Which is funny because I beat him with a perfect
Mm,
on stage,
yep.
in the tournament. But in casuals, he was fucking destroying me.
Mhm.
He was just playing so fast, and we only played one time other than the tournament. But I feel that really helped me, even though he kicked my ass. Like I knew I was able to because in the moment it was just too fast to adjust. But I was able to kind of like replay those games in my head before we played in the tournament. But yeah, Cooney like rocked me for sure. Um, he was just yeah, I just felt like I couldn't breathe playing him in the casuals. um I don't know, maybe the one game I beat him was a fluke, or maybe I got I think a lot of times when you play a great player or even a not great player, it can be like jarring at first. and you have to kind of take some time to figure out their deal, their rhythm. It can even be a subtle thing, like it can be specific strategies, but it can even just be kind of their rhythm, that's like really a little odd to you. And then another one, someone who beat me really bad. I swear and I told him this. Someone who beat me worse than Nuki, worse than Ushi, was Nisu. I cannot fucking beat that guy. Like
Yeah.
he and it was really funny because at Third Strike Open, the first couple days we were like going back and forth, or I felt like maybe I had the upper hand. And then like something changed and I just like was not able to beat him. And then he eliminated me in the tournament. So like, in a joking, friendly way, I was like telling him, I was like, I'm really looking forward to playing you again. And he fucking kicked my ass again. Um, so those guys, just something about their style was tough, but yeah, and it was funny to compare notes because like certain players that I did well against, like Billy Kane, would be like, dude, for me, that guy is like unbeatable, and I feel like there's just these kind of player matchup things that can happen with your style, and that's one of the things, it's very frustrating, but it's also one of the like most fun and awesome things about fighting games. And I think especially Third Strike, where like player A whoops player B whoops player C whoops player A. And it kind of helps me to remember that, and not, it helps me to kind of embrace that, because it's not such a rigid hierarchy as we maybe want it to be or whatever. And for me, I don't know, that just kind of takes some of the pressure off to remember that the cycle of player matchups is just wild sometimes.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. And I'm looking at it kind of both ways. So just going back and forth. Like, how do I say it? I feel like when you go to Japan at first, there's a little bit of a you have to adapt to like. If, there's not one Japanese meta, of course, right? It's silly to sum up an entire city or an entire country as like, oh, they all play blank. But there's certain trends, whenever you visit a place, like they all kind of play together a lot. They kind of play at certain rhythms or a certain way, and you kind of have to adjust to that. And I don't know, and I think it must be the same for them. There's like a culture shock, like when Americans come for Cooperation Cup, and then suddenly they're playing all of us, and we play very differently, right? I guess all I'm really saying is that the results kind of just go up in the air for a while, right? You got to all have to kind of adapt to each other, and it's like you're speaking different languages almost at first. I kind of observed very early when I had first visited Japan, and I was, it's much worse at the game then, but I had observed even then that the Japanese players are more defensive. They were going to take a little more on terms of just like holding my offense, right? Whereas America, they might show you, on wake up immediately or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just little things, right? But I think it's all kinds of stuff. Yeah, I agree. There's a styles makes fights element to this whole thing, and that's really fun, right? It's not a strict pecking order like, oh, Nuki's number one and he beats everyone except number two, and so it's not really like
Yeah,
that. That's fun.
it
So
keeps
what
it
you're
in.
saying is we should send Alex the Machine over there
Oh, he
and
would
see how he does.
either win every game or lose every game. I don't know which.
I remember hearing Arliath talk about how when they first went over there, like first SBO team with like Frankie 3S original and original recipe Frankie, and like Pyro Lee or whatever, that they did pretty well, partly because not in the tournament, I don't think, but like overall they did pretty well. And he attributed that to the style thing. I mean, Arliath, right? We know what his shenanigans.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
I'm
maybe,
familiar. I'm
yeah,
familiar.
we all have eaten some Arliath shenanigans. I don't know if if I'm taking it too literally, or maybe like if times have changed or like whatever, but I didn't notice like a ton of difference in styles. Um because there were players like Sam, the Ken player. who he plays crazy. Like, lots of DPs, like lots of yeah, he's just a psycho. Um but I also could be gleaning too hard to exceptions to the rule, and I think for me also, playing, and it's hard to compare too, because like over there, I was only playing, like, you're not playing, like, these sessions had almost no intermediate players, like it was all really super serious players. So, and I think playing on cab, and that's something I'm sort of reevaluating in my own third strike life. Like, I played only on cab for like 3 weeks because I was also in Chicago. And I do think that, like, I started trusting my defense more. I started trusting my neutral and reactions more. And I do think that lends itself to, like, there's certainly like a crispness to the play where like every interaction felt like very intentional. And I don't know if I attribute that to just skill or Japan or like, but I think playing on cab all the time like kind of helps with that, for me anyway. On when there's the jitter on Fightcade, I just get like antsy. I feel like I have to do something. And on cab, you can just, it's like, I'm good. You can't hurt me from this range, I don't know. So I'm trying to like really internalize that kind of gameplay.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that. It was nothing but killers, right? So there was one night when I was over there, and keep in mind, I went what 6 weeks before you. I think I was over there like early April, not late March. Yeah, somewhere around there. So I went to Game Newton first night. I got to play like all the legends. I'm playing Mester, I'm playing Yakun, I'm playing Genki, all the boys, and then one random night I went to dinner with my wife, and then on the way back in Ikebukuro, I was like, oh, Mikado, like Mikado Arcade, like. And she's like, "Oh, do you want to go play?" And I was like, "Yeah, if anybody's playing Third Strike, like, I'll pop in and play a couple games because it's only 5 minutes from my hotel." So I popped in there, and there was like 6 or 7 guys playing Third Strike. Like no idea who they are to this day. I still don't know who they are. But I played them for like 2 hours, and I was like, "This isn't that bad." Like, I won like the majority. I was playing my alts and stuff there. I felt comfortable enough that I was winning enough to where like, yeah, I'll try my Chun Li and see how it does, or
Oh
I'll try my
dear.
Ken and see how it does. Yeah, so I don't know. I think some people get over there and it's just like Japan is just straight killers like everywhere you go. But no, there's some rays and stuff over there. You're gonna run into a couple of rays at the arcade. No big deal. So
Well, Billy Kane insisted, because I would have also thought that like everyone there is godlike, but
mm,
and I don't know, I'm no expert and I'm just trusting what other people say. But like Billy Kane was like, yeah, you have to understand that it's sort of like if you went to Jazzy Finale
mm,
and you were just like, this is American Third Strike,
yeah,
But like if you look at online, there's a bajillion like D ranks and
yeah,
stuff. Like, but they're not at Jazzy Finale. So it's kind
mm,
of like, the people that are coming to Newton to prepare for Coop, you know, on a Wednesday night, or like staying out till 1 a.m., on the Monday before Coop. These are the beasts, that's like, these are the passionate, like, awesome players. But yeah, so I stayed in Ikebukuro, which I highly recommend to anyone going to Japan. It was like perfect. I loved it. We went to the Ikebukuro arcade, which is confusingly called Mikado also.
yeah.
Um,
But it's not the Mikado or the one that all the like Third Strike heads go to. Yeah.
right.
Yep.
Um, but so Sam, his home, the Ken I mentioned, his home arcade is that one. Like, I think he
Mm,
lives by it. So when we went, he like arranged a session for us. So like
okay.
some other people came. And by the way, Sam told me he had never really played Third Strike with foreigners, and like he really enjoyed it, like he
Yeah.
got into it, so there was some cool like connection happening there. But yeah, so he arranged a session for us, and so like a guy, I think his name is Piroyuki, a Chun-Li player, or Hiroyuki or
Yeah,
Piroyuki.
yeah, yeah.
Shinta came.
Mm,
Um Koro came for a bit, the Oro player, but there were also like there was some like random queue, like
Yeah.
some random kind of like
I think I probably played that guy too.
yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
and we were all like I asked like Billy Kane, and that was the night Neobon and Chirithi got there. It's like who's that and who's that guy? And they're like, no idea, you know, like they were like, I think he's just some dude that comes here, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah. Oh, I do want to say, Ray, speaking of your trip,
Mhm.
Ray, um, Ray is such a down player of his own skill, and I want to just take a moment here. Swear to God, I was at Koenji Cube, and Ray came up. Like something happened. We were talking about the Dallas scene, like the American scene and Dallas and stuff, and someone was like, "Do you know Ray?" And I said, "Oh yeah, yeah, Wax Ray, the Yun player." And he said, "Yeah, yeah." And he goes, "He's very strong." He goes, "Very strong. He was beating Yakun when he was here." And
All
so
lies. All lies.
that's all that I know. You know, all I hear from Ray is like that he was trash, you know, or maybe got a game here or there. But according to this guy who was there, they all thought Ray was very strong.
Oh,
So
Wow.
Japan is
go,
very nice. Japan is
go
very
Ray.
nice.
So now's the time to talk about Japanese politeness and how they never really say what they mean. They just say the nicest. Anyway, no, just kidding. Okay. Shifting. Well, we don't necessarily need to shift, but I kind of want to get an idea. What do you think about Japan in general? How was being in Japan? Just the city of Tokyo. How was your experience?
Well, you know, I had some preparation for it, I feel like, because I live in New York City. So that in terms of like taking the subway, just being in an environment with like a lot of people, you know, that made it a little less insane. Although there were still, even being from New York, there was a time in Ikebukuro station on like my third day I like couldn't figure out how to get my card working, and I was going like against the flow of like the biggest sea of people I've ever seen, and like this one dude, as polite as they are, one dude like yelled in my face because I was like couldn't figure out which way to go, and you know, he was like Majiga. I have no idea what he said, and I was just like, I'm sorry, just I'm gonna go in the corner and regroup for a minute. Um, but yeah, like there was that. I also went to India once about 5 years ago. Although India and Japan are like insanely different, but they're also both insanely different from the US. So like I had a little bit of idea. Like in India, you know, India is more different than the US in a lot of it's like so fucking insanely different. However, people speak English. Like a lot of people speak at least rudimentary English, almost everybody. So like in Japan, I mean a couple times like I went into a restaurant, I was like, "Oh, I think I want to eat here. This looks nice." And I walked in and the person just talked straight to my face in like paragraphs of Japanese, and I was like, "Uh, ichi?" You know, like and then another paragraph, and I just like bowed and like walked out like feeling like an idiot, you know? Um, so, so there was that whole thing going on, like when I wasn't in the arcades, and that's one reason why I don't regret a moment that I spent, you know, in the arcades, because in the arcades I felt, you know, of course there's still some cultural differences, and I'm not gonna, you know, say I didn't like, you know, kumbaya with like every player, but I felt very welcomed. Like people were happy to see me. Like we all spoke the common language of Third Strike, as cheesy as it may be. Like I felt very comfortable in the arcades, and in some ways more comfortable than in the US. Like I really liked the polite, you know, sort of system for everything, and everyone was like really serious and respectful. So I loved being in the arcades. But as soon as I stepped out of the arcades, it's just like as a Westerner, and that's another thing that's opposite of India. Like in India, they're really interested in like foreigners, and they're very much like, oh, it's a foreigner. Like people stare at you. And in Japan, it's like I was nobody. Like I felt like the most invisible fucking person, on the train platform. It was wild. But last thing I'll say, and then I'll bounce it to you, Lance, and we can, kind of compare notes. But I will say, like, the cleanliness, the feeling of safety, like that was something my heart just like, because New York has gotten a bit gnarly, like it's always had its pockets, but like there's definitely an uptick in like the human feces that you might see, like on the subway platform, and you just see a lot more like fights, like randomly and stuff like that. And my heart just like sank when I thought about coming back to that. Cause like walking around, I mean, dude, there was a temple, so my hotel was on like a fairly commercial street, and literally like 1 block behind my hotel there was a fucking temple with the most gorgeous trees around it. And like, you might even know the one I'm talking about, Ray, in Ikebukuro. But like, I would go to Coco Ichibanya Curry every night at like 1 a.m. and walk past this temple. It was like there's a mist, on everything. I feel like completely safe. Like it was like a fantasy land, So there was a lot about it that I loved. But it was complicated being, not from there as well. So what'd you think?
Yeah, no, I'll mostly echo what you said. I think the cleanliness, the politeness is very It's like you get there and like, oh, this is so nice, and you leave it and you're so depressing. Um,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
I'm from Alaska, so the years that I visited Japan, for the most part, I was visiting from Alaska. Now, it's very apples and oranges, Alaska versus Japan. Alaska's very it's wide open spaces, beautiful, surrounded by mountains and nature, and it's not uncommon. I've told the story before that I went to college for music education, and I had a clarinet.
Really?
Yeah, and I had a clarinet rehearsal, um, at the college, and then I had to call my professor and say, "Hey, I'm going to be late. There's a bear like sitting on my car, so I'll get there when the
Hell
bear
yeah.
leaves." There's nothing right, and that's just not an experience you really have too many places. Um,
No.
but so for
And
that it was very
Anchorage
apples and
Wild.
oranges. I really love Anchorage. Now going back to like Texas from Japan, it's just depressing. I'm just gonna be honest. I just feel like America's like a third world country compared to Tokyo. Uh, yeah, I mean something that I really love about Japan, and whenever I tell people who haven't been, it's a weird thing to fixate on, but I'm like, yeah, it's like public transportation. It's clean, fast, cheap, and constant. And that's something that I really miss because I'm blind to one eye, so I've never really been super comfortable driving. Certainly
Really?
not in DFW Metro with the insane traffic. And so I think I thought about that all the time. Like Japan's like this perfect city. Yeah, and I'm always disappointed when I leave it.
Yeah,
It, yeah.
I kind of the same for me because like when I went to the New York Auto Qual in January, that was the first time I've ever been to like a city that big, because I'm from the sticks basically. If anybody knows me, from the countryside. So when I went to Japan, it was like I don't know, like New York, but just like everything was clean and polite. Like I think like I told people like I got spoken to maybe 3 or 4 times the entire time I was there. Like I was there for 2 weeks. Like I think a Japanese person actually tried to conversate with me like 3 or 4 times the entire time. Other than that, it was like I didn't exist. It's just like okay, just try to do my best I can, stay out of the way. People are trying to get to work. They're trying to get through their daily lives. I'm not trying to be here and be an asshole and like waste their time or whatever. But yeah, everything was super clean. And then when I stayed at Ikebukuro, if anybody's ever been to Dallas, there's a section called Deep Ellum, and it's like kind of like our music bar scene. But lately it's gotten really bad where there's a lot of crime. There's a lot of fights and shootings and just trash and whatever. Ikebukuro felt like that, but without any danger whatsoever and no like trash or like any danger whatsoever. Like any other state, country, even I would not let my wife walk around by herself in the middle of the night. Japan, like she'd be like, "Oh, I'm gonna go down to the Family Mart." Like, cool, I'll see you in 30 minutes or whatever. And just felt totally comfortable. So yeah, Japan's incredible country. We'll say that.
Yeah, I mean, I remember there was that viral video of the Japanese fans cleaning up at the World Cup, I think it
Mhm.
was. And like that image kind of says a lot, and I think just their culture and I think it plays out in the fighting games just how they like take stuff seriously and just in general.
Yeah.
And that's like pretty cool, and it was a beautiful city. I do think like cuz and not to get into like politics or anything, and this really isn't a right or left wing kind of thing, but like I have been a little concerned about the direction of America, just in terms of how much political tension there is and just like what direction we're kind of going. And so, the thought crossed my mind like, would I want to live here? Like would I
Yep.
want to do the and they like rock music. I'm a musician, and they, from what I understand, they like the kind of music I like over there. So it's kind of like, oh, there could be some cool stuff. But I do think, I mean, you'd have to learn Japanese. You'd have to. And I am concerned that I would feel lonely. I think that that's kind of the double-edged sword of it. And all the suicides, multiple times my trips were messed up by suicides on the trains, and that happens for a reason. I feel like that's like the other side of the coin. You take everything really seriously. They're very private, but that can probably lead to some difficulties in the mind. And yeah, I don't know if I could handle it. I'm afraid I would kind of feel cut off from society. But, maybe I'll do what Diver, you guys know Diver, the New York Yang player who had an OCV at Coop. By the way, he was the most excited. He's like a very chill guy. And I've sort of watched him like blossom a bit over the last year, which has been really, really cool. Not just in the game, but kind of socially and everything. And after that OCV, he looked like Michael Jordan after like winning the champion. Like he was like OCV, like he was like
Yeah.
exploding with it was so cool. I was like, man, this is awesome. But anyway, he's staying there he can work remotely and he's staying for 3 months.
Mm.
So,
Right.
maybe I'll do something like that. I don't know. It um, it'd be cool.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
met Diver at the New York Auto Qual, and he actually gave me a lot of tips for Japan because he'd been before, and was like, "Yeah, do this, and this isn't so bad, and this is how the train system operates." So I was like, "Oh, cool." But yeah, he kind of helped me a lot when I took some notes down and showed my wife, like, "Hey, I went to the search strike thing in New York, but look, they gave us info on Japan, so fine, right? Fine." So
Yeah, that's one of the great things about going. I mean, I had like and I kind of want to make a pitch to everyone who sees this to go, you know, like you have so many resources. Like I had, people like Diver, people like you guys, like Neem gave me a bunch of tips because he had just been. Then I had like Ryan and Farai who were on the ground who live there. I had Genki, who's Japanese, Genki and Mokotaro, who were from there. Like you're not going in blind. Like there every step of the way, like there's people that can make suggestions and make sure you're comfortable and all that. And just, you know, the other part of the pitch is just like I mentioned the thing about the Smash documentary. It's like this is fighting game history. Like Co-op Cup is fighting game history and it's happening now, and like we don't know how much longer. I'm pretty optimistic it's going to happen again. I have no insider info or anything, but like we just don't know. Like it's amazing that people like Boss and Nuki and like all these guys are still playing and it's still like super hype, and like you just don't want to miss out. Like it feels like a big commitment, but just book the trip, and like, cause man, it's like, and now I'm so much more excited to watch Japanese footage now. because like it used to feel very foreign, you know? It's like I'm never gonna play these guys. Like, you know, I would watch the Akuma players, I would watch Zabi and match and stuff to get some ideas here and there. And I would watch like co-op or old SBO highlights for fun. But now it's like, oh yeah, I played that guy, you know, like, or oh, I might play that guy next year. Like you feel a part of it, you know? So, and I felt the same way about the American scene when I went to the Jazzy finale for the first time. Like I met all these people that I'd been playing online and that I'd been seeing in videos. And it's like, it makes the whole rest of the year so much better. Like, even if you're not traveling that much, just having that, getting that offline real life experience just like makes it all so real and like so much richer in my experience.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, and kind of just um, bouncing off that topic, something that I think is true, and certainly people have kind of pointed out, is that you can't, when we watch Japanese footage, we're watching an ecosystem that we can't fully understand if we haven't at least partaken in it to some extent, and even then we can't really understand it. By that I mean this is a collection of a couple hundred players that have been playing each other for 20 years, and they've been developing playing each other for 20 years. So when you watch their footage, you of course begin to be like, oh, that's a cool, that's a good combo. I'll learn that combo. Or oh, I see he did he buffered a parry there. That makes sense. But there's so much of their decision making that is completely opaque to you. You just can't understand it because you've never even participated in it. And really, you can only, even just going there, it's not sufficient, right? Like we feel like, we go there and we know a little more because we played these players and we're like, okay, like you just said, I feel like a part of it. Um, Still, like when it's one of those difficulties in watching footage is that you can never really understand why anyone picks a move that they pick, right? It would be like watching me versus Ray and wondering why Ray is just doing all these unique moves.
Unique.
You
Oh my
can't
Unique.
god.
you can't understand it because we've played each other 5 million times, and so we're
Um,
having an ongoing conversation that at this point has lasted 5 years.
um,
Right? Yeah. So I don't know if there's really a point to that except to say, um, it's really we watched the footage because that was my experience. I watched a lot of Japanese footage early on, not just Japanese. I kind of learned. I watched everything I could get my hands on. I really wanted to be like a student of the game and of the community and of the culture when I was starting off. Um, but when you go and participate in it, it enriches the experience. Now you go back and you're like, okay, I kind of get that a little more, right? And if you could live there, then I'm sure it would be even more, right? But
Yeah, I think it's a great point. I heard Yaz, the French Chun-Li player, say on another podcast that like he was like, there's some people that you go over there and you could be the best player in the entire world, and the first game you play them, you will never win, you know, because they play so weird. And there's a lot of like player versus player stuff going on. And I love player versus player stuff. And I think it it's like just what I've always emphasized more in my play, although I'm trying to like balance that out. And I think Japan helped with that because a lot of times I didn't know who I was even playing, you know, and you're playing so many different people. So I think I got a little better, like I'm getting a little better at sort of like starting with the character and then branching off from there. But yeah, like there's a lot of weird player stuff going on. And, you know, I'm actually reading a book right now that you guys might have heard of called The Inner Game of Tennis. And it's a famous sports psychology book, and it's about tennis, but it can be applied to a lot of stuff. And I learned about it because Pete Carroll, the Seahawks, former Seahawks and USC football coach, he gave the book to all his championship USC football teams, and that was they did like a little ESPN piece about it of like they all read this tennis book like because it's very like Zen um sort of orient that it's like Buddhist influence. And there is a point to this. So the book, I just got to a part in the book where he talks about how to watch the pros, and he's talking about tennis, but he's basically saying like you probably can't, like, don't try to exactly mimic their swing, if you're like a intermediate, you're a beginner player, you can't just like watch Roger Federer and be like, let me do exactly that. He's like, but you'll pick up on things. The book, a lot of it's about your subconscious being very wise. You know, he's like, if you just watch it, your subconscious will pick up on certain things and you'll notice things that maybe can apply to you, even if you can't like copy it. So I think I literally read that last night, but I feel like that's kind of a cool way of thinking about it. Like I watched some footage when I was on the Stairmaster at the gym today, and I just tried to watch it because sometimes I study like it's like every knockdown. Okay, like what do they do? But I try to just watch it and just if I notice something like, oh, that was a cool chip setup, or like, wow, he's really like going in a lot, you know, like why might he be doing that? Or just you kind of just pick up on certain things and and I think there's also a benefit. I think you do learn from osmosis a little bit of just watching. It's like, oh, this is what high level third strike looks like, like they're being very, you might just notice the way they move in a very precise way, or the way that they like are really good with air parries or whatever. You just kind of notice like, oh yeah, these are the kinds of things that I need to be striving for, rather than just copy and pasting like Nuki versus so and so. I'm going to do this in this situation. That doesn't work, I
Mm.
don't think.
Well, it's interesting
Yeah,
you bring
there's
that. Oh, go ahead, Ray.
Frankie does a great job of breaking that down. I really miss the
Mm.
Feetwork series, the 101. He used to do, the breakdowns of the players and really break down why they're doing such and such in such situations. And like I've been watching Third Strike for years, since I was a little kid. But it wasn't until I started kind of watching his videos too that I understood like more like, oh, okay, that's why he's doing that in that situation. And before that, I would try to mimic it, but like it's just me trying to like mimic. I don't know why. It's just like he does this, so I'm gonna do this, but I don't really know the outcome. But that's what the top guy does, so like I'm gonna do it, but I don't understand why. So like I miss Frankie's breakdown. So when he used to do the characters or the player specific things of like, oh Nuki's playing against Dudley, like he'll jump away, like that's his anti-air. He like jump away is to reset distance, like that's the type of anti-air. And before I didn't even like well, why is he just jumping away? Is he scared? Like coward? Like why are you jumping away? But like
Yeah,
no, it's just
probably.
resetting spacing and
You
stuff like
yellow?
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is Nuki
uh,
a yellow belly?
but yeah, I miss Frankie's videos. I hope he does some more of those. It helps dum dums like me put together Third Strike. So
Those videos are really good. And I watched those early in my comeback. I was like devouring tutorials, and I watched, I need to go back and watch those again. But another thing in this book that speaks to what you just mentioned, yeah, he talks a lot about how, and I'm kind of a believer in this too. Like, so I heard Exodus say, it might have been on your podcast. He said he's like never watched footage ever or something, which I don't know if that's true. But like for me, a lot of my journey has been like self-guided to some degree. Like I think and I've gotten some awesome tips. Like don't get me wrong, like Frankie, Nika, lots of people, Donka, have given me like some game changing tips, but they're usually pretty simple. Usually like, you should like use fireball more, like it'll make me hesitate a little. It's like, oh yeah, I kind of forgot about that. Like, let me work on that more. But I think for me, you know, one of the best, like usually when I watch footage, it's either I think watching it in the kind of general way I was describing of like I'm just gonna kind of watch these guys and be like, oh wow, like Uriken plays crazy. like let's look at some of the crazy things he does, or like, oh Zabi plays really precise. Like what are maybe a couple things I can take from it, or if I'm having a lot of trouble, like certain matchups, I feel like that's been like I have a great example actually. So today I feel really good against Makoto. And the reason is purely because I got absolutely rocked by Dr. Pancake and Ty Law, like so hard, where I was just like you were saying earlier, it's like I'm helpless. It was like
Yeah.
I just like, and it's like this is unacceptable. It's like it's one thing if somebody beats me, like we're all gonna lose, and like I know there are a lot of great players, but like this will not stand that I'm just getting like fucking blown off the screen. So I went, and actually one of the first videos I watched was Neem playing Akuma. Actually, he played Akuma for a little bit, playing against a Makoto, and it was the first time I noticed someone mashing low short to stop the dashes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
See him, and I was like, that is fucking brilliant. Like, and I swear to God, I immediately implemented it, and it was like a complete game changer. And like now I know there's some counterplay to that too, and they can YOLO EX Hayate if they see you doing that. But like tiny thing that just totally changed my play against that matchup. So like that would be an example of like specific matchups, specific moves and punishes and stuff. That's where I think it can also be really useful. But yeah, copy and paste is kind of, I think you need to play, you need to see what's working for you, what's not working for you, try to make some adjustments on your own, hit the lab, and then not as a last resort in a bad way, but kind of the footage is like, that's kind of, I would check that out for like, kind of if I'm stuck, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I've never like watched footage to be like, I want to play like this guy or
Mhm.
like, and I don't mean that however that might, it's just never, I'm too busy playing, I'm too busy grinding to have ever really done that.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting topic to me, because it kind of touches on how we all learn and what you can draw from watching, what you can't. I think a piece of what we've already kind of touched on, and I feel like we've been dancing around this topic, but to say it explicitly, there are matchup things you can absolutely learn from just watching footage, right? Like the right way to play this matchup. Also, there's some risk reward things that are explicit within just watching the footage. You can kind of observe them. There are player versus player things that are quite opaque and maybe nonsensical to us because we're not part of that meta. Um, something that really I've thought about is that when Yuki, so Dallas as a scene, kind of started blossoming about 4 years ago, and it all kind of started. I mean, there's a lot of places where it kind of like picked up steam here, but one of the places it started was Yuki had kind of collected a group of players he thought were like, okay, these guys are interested in learning, and they seem like they will try to learn. I'll just kind of take them under my wing. And Yuki's advice, I remember in this little group chat, was just watch Japanese footage and copy and paste it. You'll figure out why later. And I thought about that, and I think it's not the worst plan, but there's going to be an intermediate step where you're going to have to comprehend everything, right? You start and you know nothing, so you have to like, okay, where do I start? I'm just going to copy paste what I'm seeing in these videos. Um, then you're going to spend a few years comprehending why the moves work the way they do, and then you can kind of come back to it after you built that comprehension, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I also want to say like one thing that's really cool about fighting games is the same with music too. Like there's so many different ways to learn, and like I'm sure there are amazing players that have basically been like, I want to play like show or like whatever, and they just fucking watch tons of his footage and like take as much as, and that can probably work. Yeah, I think that there's what you described kind of sounds a little bit like how I was describing the like you're seeing what high level play looks like. It's like there are times when like if you're a Ken player and you're watching Ken and it's like they use stand strong a lot. It's like that must be a good move, and then you just start like using it and then you start to figure out like as you're doing it, it's like, oh, this stuff's like a lot of things or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, when I was a little kid, I used to be like super into art before I found alcohol, and and there was a book that I read called "Drawing on the Right Side of Your Brain," and it was talking about, like if you drew a face, right, you would draw what you think a face is, like circle, whatever, sort of eyes, nose. You know those things are belong on a face because that's what a face is, but you're not thinking about the angle, you're not thinking about the lighting, you're not thinking about everything that goes into the way the face is positioned. You're just kind of pasting things on like they're a Mr. Potato Head. And that's kind of the way Third Strike is, right? Like, it's like, okay, I know you're supposed to do this, but like I don't really know the specifics of why, or you're not thinking about the reasoning behind why. And I feel like Third Strike's such an organic game too. Like, I mean, there was just a Twitter debate, right? Like, K Brad, who doesn't watch or doesn't play Third Strike at all, he like watched Chris G jump in against Hugo or uppercut Hugo's jump in, and he got parried and killed for it. And he's like, he made the right move, and it was like, I don't understand this game. That was the right move, and it's like, no, if you play Third Strike, you understand the layers to it. Like, absolutely wrong move, most obvious move. Like, of course you're gonna DP my jump in. Like, of course I'm gonna parry and punish you for it. But yeah, I kind of feel like that's the layers upon Third Strike. Is you learn like the base layers, and then you build upon it, and then you build upon it depending on who you're playing, right? So, me personally, like I watch show, and I know that's not for me. I'm never gonna be able to play like that. Doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I want to go hit the guy. So like if I'm trying to watch like footage or learn about a certain matchup, I'll go watch like old KO footage or like Nito or Mester. Because they're like aggro. They play the way I do. Like I can apply what they're doing because I can see myself in their gameplay. Whereas like a Show or a Ushi, too clean. Not Ray. Like not for me. So but yeah, that's kind of the way I approach it. It's like I'll find someone who's similar and take what I can from there and then try to apply it to myself. But there's some players I'm like, that's never gonna work for me. That's not in the ballpark for me. So yeah.
Totally. And we all are, everyone listening to this, I'm sure is already on board with like how awesome Third Strike player expression is, but like, I think just a couple days apart, I played like Ushi and I played Boss, and Ushi was like so sparse. That was what stuck out to me immediately. Like very economical. He pressed few buttons. He just didn't do that much, but like everything he did was really smart, and really good and efficient. And then you've got Boss. He was doing like meaty shoulder and like fucking like dash up point blank sweep during Ganajin and like just goofy stuff. And like I think you find out a lot about people's personalities. Like to some people that like clean, like I want to play so clean, so smart, that speaks to them. And for other people, like the Daigo, like I love Daigo, just as a fighting game player in general. To me, the like I'm gonna walk up from half screen and throw you, just to like I think that's so cool, to do unexpected stuff like that. And to your point, Ray, about you know seeing how you want to play in different people's play styles, like something that actually helped me a lot going into the Japan trip was I watched a lot of footage. Like only pretty recently did I learn that KO plays Akuma. And some people think he has like the best Akuma in Japan, and his Akuma is fucking amazing. And I was watching his Akuma, and he does random Tatsu.
Mhm.
Like he mashes Tatsu, he does random air Tatsu, and he does them really smartly, but like these, or I'll watch like Boss do like, two wake up Shoryukens in a row or like whatever. And, sometimes you can see these guys doing that stuff and it's like, okay, like that stuff's not off limits, like it's not like everybody over there is just being like, I will make the optimal decision at,
Yeah,
with
they're not robots. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and so, you can kind of and actually when I played Piero, because KO played Piero, and so Piero beat Match in a first to 10, and then KO played Piero in a first to 10
Destroyed
with
them.
Puma and beat him 10-0. And I played Piero and I had watched that first to 10 and I was like, I'm just gonna go fucking crazy like
Mhm.
KO did. And like, it went pretty well, like, and because I went in confident, like I saw KO, he takes risks. And they're good risks. Like that's the thing, is like they're good risks, and the execution is there, and the ability to adjust is there. But like, he will take risks, and he will do you know scrubby stuff, or whatever. And but when you have the ability to adapt, and you're doing it smartly, and you have the execution, and like the mental strength and all that stuff, there's lots of different ways to play, and it's really cool to explore all that.
Yeah, and it's cool that you mentioned like, oh, Daigo walking up from full screen and throwing you, right? It's like what what you don't see is like, okay, I can just walk from that range and throw someone, but what you don't understand is like, oh no, he's like scared them that bad to where they're just like, he earned that somewhere, right? Like you don't just get to do that in third strike. Like it's either his presence or what he's done previously that's like made someone so scared that they're just sitting there watching him like, all right, here he comes, like
Yeah.
which I'm too terrified to press a button, and then he just gets a throw off of it. So that's the beautiful thing about third strike. I feel like you can just call someone out so bad that you just terrify them to where it's like, now I'm not doing anything. I'm not even fighting back because I'm so scared to press buttons at this point, and then they're just running their offense. So
Yeah, if someone takes away like one move, like I remember the first person I remember um who could do so, I shouldn't say this, but some members of the cast, if you crouch block low forward heavy kick Tatsu, you can stand after the first hit at the Tatsu and then get 2 blue parries, and then get like a gigantic punish, with whatever you want. And the first person who did that to me consistently was Big Red. And I remember he did it every time. And I was just like, I can never Tatsu. Like, and then you start to, and you're expecting maybe you get a Shoryu if it's blocked or a throw, but when you're getting like fucking stand medium punch double Shoryu, or like target combo super every time that you Tatsu, it's just like people take away. Or like somebody, I remember Neem is like very, very good at demon flip defense. So like you do that, when the person takes away that move, sometimes you can just start to like spiral a little bit, where it's just like, oh man, like this big part of my game is like removed. So then you have to have a lot in your bag, to be able to stay calm, like recognize that and pivot. But one thing back to what you were saying, Ray, yeah, like half screen walk up throw is a perfect example of like, you can't just copy and paste that, but you can do it. Like if you have to figure out how to do something like that that works for you. Like it's a journey of like, you can't just copy that move and do it, but it is something, however you want to play, like that's the part that you kind of have to learn just through a lot of experience and like honest self-reflection. I'm a big player, a big believer in like always be, and of course sometimes we like goof around a little bit. Like you can never be fully on like for every single game, but like as much as possible, whether I'm playing the best player or just some random guy I'm kind of beating up on Fightcade, I'm always trying to like be working on certain things, like trying certain things, like thinking, oh, this didn't work, like, oh, this block string is kind of not so good, or whatever it is. And if you do that, you can build up to the point where these tactics that might seem confusing can like start to come in to your play, if that makes sense. But knowing when to do that is like such a, it's like just saying, "Hey, play a great guitar solo," like right now, right? Like that, it's, you can't just define it with like Chat GPT can't like tell you how to do that. It's like a lot more subtle than that.
Yeah, I
love
wanted
it.
to follow up on that a little bit with some Goki questions. Kind of
Yeah.
coming onto that character. So okay, I'll tell a brief story and what I learned from it, and then we'll go from there. I remember the first time I went to Japan, I was hanging out with Farai. I played a Goki player. I don't remember who it was, and he asked me, "Oh, what did you think about that guy?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, he was good, but kind of wild to me. Like why would he do these moves? They could be punished." As a Chun Li player, especially as an up and coming, like a newer Chun Li player, I was thinking like very logical. Like there are right decisions. A lot of this game there's a right or wrong decision. Chun Li's kind of that kind of character in general, right? Because of a variety of factors about her design, she is kind of there's a right decision a lot of times, and you're always kind of just trying to play perfect, super cheap, super clean. And he was like, well, I don't know, like I don't know how else she played Goki except have to be kind of wild, you know.
Mhm.
And I think that opened up something in my brain to kind of review how I kind of observed everything at the time. Um, my sense of it is with Goki, I don't know how to exactly to put this. You're kind of faking it a little bit, right? Like, he's a good character, but there's always a little bit of wiggle room in terms of you're kind of doing stuff that maybe isn't quite the safest, but like it might work. Uh, it's a my sense of it is when you approach Goki that way, it's a very different character from Chun Li. So I'm wondering if that, uh, you know, does that spark anything into you? Do you have any thoughts on that?
For sure. And, you know, first of all, I've never been the I want to play with like perfect risk reward guy or whatever. And I actually would attribute some of that to like I started playing these games when I was 7. So I'm not, it's just like, oh, I think he's going to walk forward, so I'm going to fireball. Like, it's that kind of sort of more intuitive approach. Um, and, so to me, like when I learned about frame data, that was like, it's like, what more could I possibly need? Like now I know like exactly how fast every move is. And like, like I can build my gameplay, sort of like a Lego set, like I can do this move in this situation and I know exactly how safe or unsafe this is. And I kind of look at fighting, it's like you're making like a stew or something. I'm doing like this much fireball, like this much footsies, this much like, when I'm on Oki, I'm gonna pressure like this much and then back off, and that's always evolving, as depending on the player, the situation, the whatever. And I think with Akuma, going back, before we started, you were asking like why Akuma. And so it's a really funny story that I bought like a Brady Games or something Street Fighter 4 strategy guide when I got Street Fighter 4 on console, and it had all the frame data written out. It was really nice actually. Um and the guy, and I have no idea if it was probably a known player who like wrote it, but I don't know how like actually attuned to the tier list and stuff he was, but his description of Akuma, and like I had kind of missed Akuma because I didn't play Third Strike or like the Alpha games. So he was like, Akuma is a lot like Ryu and Ken. He has the best tools in the entire game. He's got a fucking teleport. He's got like huge damage. He's got air fireball. But the trade off is the low health. But it's like if you can master those tools, you can be unstoppable. That was the kind of cheesy little write up for Akuma. And I was like, that sounds really cool, and just to my personality, it's like I have all these tools I can use. Like there's such a I'm attracted to like the high ceiling, you know? Unfortunately, I've experienced some moments of deep pain from the low floor of Akuma's health.
Sure.
But I wasn't really thinking about that part. But then when I picked up Third Strike, I picked Akuma for it was just very natural to start with Akuma. And yeah, I think something I love about Akuma is that you can play him. I really think he's a very flexible character. And I think in Third Strike, most characters are pretty flexible compared to a lot of games. But, there are definitely some that are more, I mean, like 12 or like Hugo or even Necro. I mean, there's always room, but like with Akuma, and I think Ken to a degree as well, you can play really defensive or you can play really offensive. And I really get excited by that idea, like that, like one game or one round or against one opponent, I can be like in your face all the time, and then I can just start spamming jump back air fireball. But to answer your question, I I've worked a lot the last year or so on playing safer and like learning how to slow down, learning how to, because I think I was a little bit guilty, especially if I was under any stress of just being like, when can my next dive kick be? So I'm kind of like trying to, or the next time I can mash Tatsu, so I've really worked on balancing it out. But I think with fighting games in general, I think you got to take some risks, and I think there are exceptions. I think like the two hooligans that you guys play, Yoon and Chun Li, are kind of examples where you can be a little bit more like sort of formulaic or kind of like just play very properly. Like, you can just like run away and build bar, and then you've got your certain things, your certain Ganajin stuff that you do. And with Chun, and I've noticed this when I play you, Lance, like you play so precisely. You've got that like wall up, you're anti-airing. Um, but I think with Akuma, and most of the rest of the cast, I just think you've got to take some chances. And kind of getting back to what I was saying about KO doing random Tatsu, I've even found that against like Nika KO, Ahmed, like they'll do round start jump in, and like for a lot of, and they do it a lot. And against a lot, like that's something you would not tell an intermediate player to do, probably, or a beginner player. It's like that's kind of stupid, but they understand, they have the confidence, the execution, the game plan to have success, at least in a lot of situations, like doing stuff like that. So yeah, I think with the Kuma and most of the casts, like I think we all kind of have our place on that spectrum of like, am I going to try to play really precise and by the book and kind of perfectly, or am I going to go crazy, and you've got like, you know, um Hurricane on, he's like a very crazy, and KO is like a pretty crazy Akuma, but then you've got like Zabi or like Luke in the US. Luke plays a lot. He'll occasionally do like a wake up demon when you least expect it, but he plays like super safe. But I think we all have to find, even Luke will do like wake up demon and some like really surprising stuff, because you've got to keep people, Billy Kane said this, like if you're always doing the right thing, then that also means I have a really good idea of what you're about to do. So, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Ray, any thoughts?
No, I mean that's what I base my entire thing off of, just
Yeah,
doing
I
whatever
was thinking
I want.
like Chun and Yun can be played super clean and
Yeah.
cheap, but then of course you can play like Ray as well. Just
Mm.
follow your own
Yeah.
style.
Yeah. Ray's got his own thing going on.
Make it up as they go along.
How about Amir too? Like he plays so differently from the other Chuns I play, and he's like the reigning de facto national champion. So, there's a lot of different ways you can play. But yeah, I think with the Kuma, I don't think I personally, again, I think I've really worked on playing safer, and I think I've gotten I've made some big strides in that journey, but I just don't think, it's not my personality to want to just play as safely as possible. And I also think that, yeah, with Akuma, like if you're playing KO or Nika KO, either version of KO, or even some intermediate players, like you're gonna get blown up eventually. So you kind of like, you can't play perfect defense. So like at some point you do have to, you know, go a little demonic.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay. Um. Oh, we have not talked about co-op cup yet. So tell us a little bit about your team for Cooperation Cup. You already kind of told us how it started, how it formed. Kind of walk us through your co-op experience.
Um, Co-op Cup was awesome. Um, Gavin, they needed a fifth guy, so my team was me, Gavin, Arliath, Carson, aka Mr. Donut, who is a Canadian chun who lives in Tokyo. And I knew nothing about Carson. I didn't know about his play, or I'd never heard of him before. And he was like a huge treat on the trip. Like I loved Carson.
Yeah.
It was really fun to team with him. And then we were originally going to have RKF, but there was some miscommunication and he dropped out, and we had Shinobu, another really good Urian Japanese guy. So it was a really good team. I felt good about the team, both in terms of like strength and like it was cool guys. It was a little bit like not quite as cohesive, I think, because like Shinobu spoke no English, so like um and like I don't know, it wasn't something that we had planned. Like the Japanese guys already have their teams for like 2 years from now, some of them, so it wasn't like it was a bit of a motley crew, I guess. But it was a great team, and I was just really grateful to be on. I would have gone even and been on a random team with nobody I knew, but like to have like Gavin or Lai, all those guys are good players, and like some guys I knew, so I was already like beyond what um like I was already in a good place just having that like on my team. um it was really interesting because it was like after all the playing nonstop for 2 weeks, it was like kind of strange the co-op cup morning. It's like, oh, it's co-op cup day, like it just kind of. And like I'd had like a big night at the Mad Dog Cup the day before, so like that had been a really epic event. And I don't think I was burned out or not focused, but it was just kind of like, oh, whoa, it's co-op cup, and the event was run really well. um I can talk about our performance, unfortunately, and I don't know what to chalk it up to, but like it was probably one of my personal worst like I did well in pretty much every single tournament, but I didn't play the best in co-op cup itself. A lot of us didn't, and I don't know, it's first to one. Like I could analyze it and be like, oh man, I wasn't focused enough, or like I was whatever. And like maybe, who knows? But I'm kind of not reading that much into it. But Shinobu kind of got on fire. So we put him up as our playoff guy, and he had an awesome run. He did fall to 5-star, actually, who had an amazing day. He almost took his team from playoff A, like he almost won both playoffs, which was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Um, I think he won like 9 games in a row and needed to win like two more. Um, but yeah, I mean, having all those people there, like, and it was also cool because I had kind of gotten to know a lot of the Tokyo players that were going to these hardcore sessions over the last 2 weeks. I at least recognized their faces and whatnot. But then Co-op Cup brought in like, that's something I didn't understand, that the Tokyo players are the most well known in the States. So there you got these dudes coming in from Osaka, coming in from Fukuoka, Okinawa, and it was like, oh, there's this whole another wave of, it's like I think I'm kind of getting um the lay of the land, and the Japanese, strong players, just there's another wave of them. So that was really cool to just see. And some of them like Derun, who I teamed with, Ototo, who I teamed with. Then also I think Uriken is from outside. Kodai, we were kind of Twitter buddies. I fucking love his videos,
Yeah.
and they're so funny, and I kind of got a good vibe from him, and like I DM'd him before I was heading over, and he was an awesome guy, really friendly guy. So like I got to meet a few more people. Um, so all in all, it was great. There were lots of casuals available, which I wasn't expecting. I wasn't getting my hopes up for that, but like lots of time to play casuals. I don't love the co-op cup format. I'm more of a like, even in the US, I would prefer like 3 out of 5. Like I feel like my strengths are a little bit more, I play Akuma, he's fragile. I'm fragile. I like having a little more time to get comfortable. I pride myself on my adaptations. So even in the US, like I'm getting pretty comfortable with first to two, but even first to two feels short for me sometimes. And so first to one is like pretty wild. And also like, dude, the top 3 or 4 teams are basically like the 15 greatest players of all time, like on 3 teams.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't want to complain because I just love that it's happening. Kind of circling all the way back to like the whole idea of like these chains that have kept Third Strike alive. And like I really think that having a big Japanese event that excites all of them, whatever it may be, it could be like a fucking 100 like 400 person East versus West tournament, or like whatever it is that like they love that gets all the players excited to come out, like I'm all for it. Um, it would not be, maybe the format that I would choose for, sort of whatever. But again, to me, the experience of playing, and I could be wrong, but I feel like they really love casuals over there. And for me, like just playing, like I played in a different tournament like every day, like a singles first to one, or an East versus West, or like random teams. And the casuals also felt very emphasized over there. Like we were all just playing for 2 weeks. So it's not my favorite format, but like it's not really why I went. Like I felt, again, the first night was like worth me going. So whatever. Watching the finals was amazing. Even in the finals, the first round was like kind of uncompetitive, which is like kind of messed up in my opinion, that like it's top 8 and like it's still not competitive because the top few teams are that good. But after that, like I mean, I'm a huge Genki fan, both as a person and now as a player as well. Like seeing him do that in person, and that was like unreal. I mean, there were definitely, seeing Piero start to almost like reverse OCV, or whatever. It was, watching the finals was like really special. So yeah, I mean, I guess those are my thoughts. Lance, I know you said you've been a few times. Like, oh, and the Mad Dog Cup was really cool too. Like that made like I met new people. And it made it not feel so like one and done. It was like it gave the weekend, there was like more to sink your teeth into. So I was really glad that they did that. So yeah. Mostly awesome. Not my favorite format, but what do you think, Lance and Ray?
Yeah. I like the co-op format. I always wish there was more. Like uh, the difficulty, especially the thing with the American teams is usually there's like 1 to 2 like really stacked teams for America, right? It's like Ryan and Yi and friends, and there's gonna be like if New York goes, we like a team New York. The rest of us are kind of just trying to make teams, right? So you're it's hard to put together like because to do go really far in co-op because essentially how co-op works is there's round one, you win both matches, you're in round two. Round two, you win both matches, you're already in top 8, right? That's already top 8. So it gets very difficult very quick. There's so many good teams. Um, I always kind of wish like, dang, like, there's been years where I've done really well. Like I OCV'd a team once, and then there's been years where I just went 0-2. I just, I did nothing, right? So I always, that's the only thing is I always wish there was more. Oh, I wish we could just redo it again. Let's just try to get another shot at it. I think it's cool that, um, you know, as far as formats go, I feel like there's a lot of different formats that we kind of practice across. So Japan is very team focused, right? And it always has been. SBO was a 3v3. Co-op is 5v5 with their unique format. Even in America, there's differences, right? Like America is definitely more tournament focused. Jazzy has kind of tried to replicate that 5v5 feel in teams, right? Kind of like co-op esque, but still like a straightforward bracket. 3SO is kind of gun for a double limb 3v3. Even differences in singles, right? So I think I think Jazzy doesn't become 3 out of 5 until like finals and like losers finals or something.
I think it's
Uh,
just losers and grands, yeah.
and we've
Yeah.
kind of we've made top 8 3 out of 5. I think no, for everyone's going to have their own preferences for formats. I think it's cool that we have so many different options to kind of interact with. I mean, personally, I hate random teams and I hate generals. Those are the two formats where I'm just not interested in those at all. But a lot of people, those are really fun. A lot of people really enjoy random teams. So, there's always something a little something for everyone. Ray, you have any thoughts on formats?
Formats, no, but I wanted to ask how it, because you were at Evo America, how did it like differ between Evo Japan, right? Like we had the cubes and all that, and it was a singles tournament, and like how did it vary from Evo Japan? Like kind of rate the experiences.
Yeah, it was really different. Well, if I can just comment real quick on what Lance said, like I really like that both Jazzy and Third Strike Open have like several different formats. Like I love that you guys do the 3-person teams. Like I think, and honestly, if Co-op Cup switched to 3-person teams, I think that would be better, but whatever. But yeah, I like that we have, and I wish Co-op Cup had like a singles tournament and Co-op Cup or something like that. I think that would be really cool. And I love teams. I think it's really fun. It like, in some ways it takes the pressure off, in some ways it puts the pressure on. There's camaraderie. Like teams is awesome. But yeah, we're lucky in the US, and it's something I love about Jazzy and y'all's event that like there's events all weekend. If you don't like singles, there's teams. If you don't like random teams, there's non-random teams. You can do first to fives. Like you can get, I think that makes the weekend really fun, and you have like multiple chances to kind of like show your stuff, on any given weekend. So anyways, as back to your question, Ray, yeah, Evo US, I mean, for one thing, Evo Japan was way more crowded
Huh?
because the venue's a little smaller. Like I
Mm.
think it probably had fewer people, or yeah, it definitely did. Um, but the Evo US venue was like a fucking 1 mile by half a mile or something. I mean, that was big venue. Um, so I think like in the US tournament, I was really struck, and Frankie and I talked about this, and I think this can happen at a lot of tournaments and majors, especially majors, but really any tournament. Like when you think about tournaments, you think about like probably being on stage and like being on stream and all that intensity, or at the very least you're thinking about like your boys are behind you and their boys are behind them, and it's like really intense, right? But like at Evo US, and I've had this experience at tournaments, even at locals, sometimes people just aren't that hype or whatever. And like last time I was in grand finals at the local, like 3 people were watching, and at Evo US, it was so spread out, and there were, um, it felt like you had to keep reminding in pools. It was like, this is tournament, like no one's
Yeah.
watching, like, and that's fine. That's not a criticism. It was just kind of and Frankie infamously played MOV
Yeah,
in front of no one.
yeah,
And
Yeah.
then literally there were like 5 people, and I was very blessed. I was sitting like 6 inches from Frankie, when he played Rao or Tominaga, then Rao. And there was a little crowd there, but it's still, you wouldn't have thought like this is
How big of a
basically
moment is? Yeah,
like this is
yeah.
a historic moment. So whereas at Evo Japan, it was a little more cramped, and so like it felt like there was a little more energy there with that. Um Honestly, both events were, Evo setups aside, like both events were quite smooth. Um yeah, I mean, I think Evo Japan felt a little more navigable in terms of like there were only, you know, 15 huge booths instead of like 80 booths that you have to like walk through or whatever. But it was cool. Certainly I watched Street Fighter 6 also at the end, and there were tons of people there. It was definitely a little more Japanese style, a little more reserved, but like people clapped and laughed. And I don't know, I'm kind of rambling, but it was tough. I'm a vegetarian. There was no food. The food situation was like rough. I was basically eating like ice cream bars out of a vending machine. Um, so there was that, and it was humid. When I first got there on the Mad Dog Cup day, Mokutaro actually texted me and said, "Is it humid in the venue?" And I had like just gotten there, and I was kind of like, maybe a little bit, like I don't know, but I'm thinking like, why is he asking me that? And a couple hours later, I knew why he was asking me that. It was
Yeah,
very humid, but
PS5s were actually failing there. It was so hot. Like that's what I was
yeah,
reading that like during the Street Fighter 6 event, like the PS5s were overheating and there was slowdown due to it. And I was just like, oh my god, that's rough. That's a rough one, boys.
it's rough. I mean, there was the controversy with it, and it was very lame. We wake up at 8 in the morning to get there for Co-op Cup finals, and we've been standing for days straight. And there's this blocked off section of seats for
I heard about this.
we were like, we will pay. Like, it's lame that you're making us pay, kind of, but we will pay. Can I just hand you money so that I can go in there? Not just to sit down, but like the players were so removed
Hmm.
from the hype. Like you need that it's not just the number of people, but the density. You need that energy of people together. And our Liath, bless his heart, was like trying to start, hey, 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 with the Grenadian, because it was very hard to get, kind of hype going. But so yeah, there was the seating issue, and then it was hot. But even I saw Momochi tweet, he was like, other than the overheating PlayStations, which obviously that's a problem, but it's like every single other thing about this event was like first class. And when the PlayStations weren't overheating, even they had like the settings were perfect, like it felt perfect. So all in all, I think Matsuda pretty much crushed it. Like it was a couple of small things, but I'm really optimistic that it's going to happen again, and that the coup will happen again. So
Yeah, I know. This is so. Is this the first year that Coop has been attached to Evo Japan, or is it the second time? I can't
Yeah,
remember.
first time.
First time.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's
Last year was at a DreamHack, I think. I
yeah,
think
gotcha.
it was at
a
DreamHack,
few years
something
ago,
along those lines.
I think it was 2 years ago.
Yeah,
Okay,
something like that. Yeah.
so it used to be a standalone event. Definitely like can understand. Like I think the big thing here, of course, is to be thankful that Matsuda is able to still run this event in any capacity. Right. There sounds like there are some limitations now that didn't previously exist. Right. Ideally, we would love to have it back as its own standalone event, which is what it used to be. I'm just grateful that it's still happening. Um, yeah, I mean, it's one of the, again, like we were kind of talking about earlier. There's certain people that deserve a lot of credit for keeping Third Strike alive, and Matsuda's probably, number one on the list. To be honest,
Um,
yeah, I know. I
Yeah,
saw something, some tweet by him, like he was like, "Oh, like I'm sorry it didn't go." I don't know exactly what he said. I don't, it's Google Translate, but like he
yeah.
he acknowledged there were some issues or something. Uh,
well, it's Japan, so every time when I thought the players were kind of like you know a little less competitive. And then as soon as Co-op Cup ended, I started seeing the like, I have failed everyone. Like, I'm so sorry tweets from different players. It was really sad. There were a couple guys, I won't say who, but a couple guys I'd kind of become friends with who I saw they were disappointed in their coop performances, and they were like sad, like very sad. And I get it. I've been there. Um, but anyway, I feel like, maybe, it was the overheating and maybe just him being a perfectionist a little bit. But I saw it seemed like the reviews were really positive. And I'll just say about Evo too, like, I mean, not to be like an equivocator or whatever, but like I love the grassroots stuff. I love Jazzy. I love Third Strike Open. Um, but I don't mind Evo. Like I know some people they see it as like very corporate and so, and I know there's some controversial stuff and with the funding and like having to pay for seating, like that's stupid. But to me it's like it got us together. Like I mostly just see like people playing fighting games, and having a great time. And to me, having Third Strike, I almost and I think you guys know a lot more about it than I do and have your finger more on the pulse, but I kind of liked having it as part of Evo Japan because again, I feel like it kind of like legitimizes it. It gets like more eyeballs on it. So if they can just clean up a few issues, yeah, I don't know. I think we all agree it's mostly just great that it's happening.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I always compare like the way I compared Evo America and Jazzy was, if I see my favorite band, I'm like a punker growing up, like I love punk rock, like I want to see my favorite punk rock band in a basement with like 80 dudes, like shoulder to shoulder, like sweaty as fuck, like
Yeah.
bands right there, I can touch them, like and if I see them in a stadium, it's awesome too. It's great. The music's gonna be great still. But just that experience of just being like together, small, like I'm experiencing something with like just a few amount of people, like that's something special. And I kind of feel like Third Strike kind of has that, especially like some of the grassroots events, like you'll go to an auto qual or the open or Jazzy, and it's just like a couple of dudes just crowded around a cab, just hype as fuck, screaming, like it is just the best feeling. So Evo's great, and it's great that like the rest of the world gets to experience what we experience, on a monthly basis, almost for the most part with Third Strike. But I just love the like DIY style of like Third Strike events. So
It's different. Yeah, like I
yeah,
remember my first Jazzy 2023, which is, for me that was kind of like um the equivalent of going to Coop, but for America for me, where it just like it opened my eyes and it was like, oh my God, this is so epic. And I remember watching the finals that day and like yeah, just having these like 100 guys, and we're all kind of awkwardly crammed in there and like every fucking interaction, you felt the gasps and stuff and there's like the flannel jack taunt kill and like I remember Anthony. Oh yeah, sorry.
who did that happen to again? Who
Yeah,
cut
I
me off?
Some
Filled.
but
fucking
there was
idiot.
Ah
there
man,
was something
some
really cool that happened. I think
can't
Flannel
remember.
Jack lost the set though, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly, against whoever it was. The person rebounded really impressively.
Mm,
Yeah, I
Um,
hear he's really handsome too, but I don't remember.
mm.
yeah, I remember that. His handsomeness is what's making me forget the details.
Yeah, of course, of course.
But yeah, like I remember when that happened, and Anthony like came out from behind the booth and was just like, yeah, and like
Mm,
got everybody, and it was like it was fucking electric. Like we had
mm,
witnessed, like it was a moment, and that's like really cool. And it's different, but then like at Evo US, I mean, to me, walking around and just being like, holy crap, like that's MOV and like
yeah,
that's my buddy Ray from Dallas. Dude, I met JR Rodriguez. So I used to play JR
yeah.
Rodriguez.
Pikachu Akuma, dude, the legend, the legend.
Dude, I used to play him in Street Fighter 4
Mm,
and Third Strike. There's some videos if you YouTube it. There's like some videos of me and him playing in Street Fighter 4. And that was when he was really kind of blowing up as like a more mainstream famous guy from like
Yeah.
his Street Fighter 4 videos. And we were friendly, you know, but we hadn't, I mean, we barely talked back then, you know, we just played crazy Akuma games and said like good games or whatever, and that was it. And then at Evo US, I was about to play Rao on stream. It was at fucking like 9:30. It was, I think it was 10, but it felt like 8 in the morning. I'm about to play Rao, my first set of the day on day 2 on stage, and it's like we're all half awake. And right before I played Rao, Bubbles played J.R. Rodriguez.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I've never seen the guy's face before. Like, you know, I'd know nothing. And
Mm.
JR played like amazingly. And by the way, Bubbles then rebounded and had like an insane, like crazy losers run. But
Mm.
JR played like amazingly. And he walks right past me in front of, you know, I'm sitting on the front row, like waiting to go and say, JR walks past me and I just tap him and I go, JR, I'm Poe. I'm Poe22222, the Akuma player. And he just goes, "Oh man," and like gives me a
Yeah.
big hug. And then I had to go up on stage, never saw him again. You know, it's like just this, and I've known this guy, you know, like
Yeah.
online for fucking, you know, 15 years or whatever. So those kind of moments, like I think the big events are cool for the magnitude. I mean, seeing Frankie, like I remember when Evo was announced for Third Strike, literally the first thought that just like instantly popped into my head was like, we're gonna see Nika KO versus Nuki in front of like 20,000 people and like 100,000 streamers. Like that's going to be insane. And of course, neither of them ended up going, but we got Frankie versus Hayao and like,
Yeah.
you know, Resolve being on the stage. That was like, you know, that stuff to me is super cool, but I will, you know, agree that there's something like magical about those smaller events that's just it's really really awesome.
Yeah, JR, I didn't know what he looked like until I was getting ready to play one of my matches off stream, and I think he was talking to his wife, his girlfriend, or something. But he was about to play Hayao, and then she's like, "Oh, who do you play next?" He's like, "Oh, that Japanese Hugo." And she's like, "Oh, is he any good?" He's like, "I'm gonna fucking demon him." And just keeps talking, like keeps doing what he needs to do. And I was like, "Oh, I bet that's JR. Like, I bet that's JR Rodriguez." So, yeah. And then he tried to demon him too. He tried it. So
That's funny. They had a pretty close set, didn't they?
yeah,
Yeah.
I think JR was trying to get the demon a little hard because he was
Yeah.
way up at one point, and
Mm.
yeah, yeah.
You know who
Shouts
else
to
told
JR.
me about Hayao was I didn't know this till later, but Ben,
Yeah,
Ben,
Ben.
buddy,
Shouts to Ben Mighty.
yeah,
Yeah,
that was like
my boy.
super intense set. He
Yeah,
played awesome.
yeah,
He's one of the hidden characters of Dallas. Like I
yeah.
don't think
Hidden
people
gems.
realize, like the general American population doesn't realize that Ben is actually like pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, I
When
love Ben.
I'd never heard of him until last Jazzy, and I was like, "Who's this guy?" Like, and we played, and yeah, he was really good. So I need to watch some of his videos and take
Yeah,
some
that's
notes.
how Sonny's got so good. It's just them two would just sneak off while we're at the arcade and just play Ken Mirrors for hours upon hours on end. So that's why like
Dude,
Sonny's so good at that matchup. So
Sonny has gotten. I don't know how you guys feel. I just see like
I
glimpses.
can't fucking beat him anymore, dude. I
Dude,
can't.
when I played
I
him,
can't.
well, when I played him at Third Strike Open, he also told me like when we played at Eva or at Jazzy last year, he like I definitely had the upper hand, and but he told me he wasn't very good against Akuma, and I saw him playing against other people and like looking really fucking good. So like I knew it was probably like a player matchup thing a little bit, character and player. But then when we played at Third Strike Open last year, I felt like a big difference. You know, he felt really strong. And then like every time I've seen him, the last, you know, the auto qual or playing online, like I forget what all I've seen, but he's looked like really, really good. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to get to play him more again.
Yeah. Yeah, he's alright, I guess.
Yeah.
Fuck off, Lance.
um. Okay. Next question. So you've been playing. You come back. You've been playing in America. You played on some big stages. You now gone to Japan. You played there. What does your Third Strike future look like? What are your goals? Where are you? Where is this all headed?
That's a great question. So every year, I mean, I guess like the first, and I'm kind of viewing it as like jazzy seasons. It hadn't been quite a year when I went to jazzy, but for the sake of discussing it, like the first year, I was just in it. You know, I you know, I've said this publicly before, but like my mom had passed away like not long before I decided to play again. That was like part of it. I was like, I want to do something for me, like I want to do something fun. And I wasn't really thinking about, you know, like I wasn't even sure right away if I was going to go to tournaments or anything. I just wanted to play fighting games cuz I love it. And then like, I went to a tournament and it was fun and like now I'm feeling well, I'm getting stronger and I think I might, maybe I will go to this jazzy finale thing, and then I went to that and I had an amazing time at Jazzy 2023. So then it was like, I think I want to stick with this a little while longer. Then I kind of went through the same thing last year. I will say I have, as many of us have, I've sacrificed some career stuff. I've sacrificed social life, you know, um, and, I was kind of thinking, well, maybe after this year, it's like I became a Jazzy finalist. Like that was so cool. Like I feel like I kind of belong, like, and I want to keep playing, but like maybe I'll take a step back. But then like Evo happened. I did really well. I was kind of surprised how well it went. I'm meeting all these people. I'm becoming friends with Frankie, and like Frankie has his moment. We roomed together that weekend, so like sharing that with him was like so cool. Like we both kind of like crushed it for like what we had hoped to do, and it was just like, man, this was amazing. So I was kind of like, fuck, I can't stop now, So like I kept going, and then now same thing. And now Co-op Cup, Japan was kind of the exact same thing this year where I'm like, that was awesome. Like I've got to go back to Japan again. Like I can't stop now. So, as far as where I am now, like first of all, I never want to quit playing entirely ever again. Like I love it so much, as I've shared very long-windedly at the beginning. Like this has meant so much to me in several times in my life, and like that's why I want to tell more of the Japanese players that too, because I think they could tell how much it all meant to me. And it's like this is literally a childhood dream. Like I started playing these games when I was fucking 7, and like it's just been amazing. And I never want to stop playing entirely. Like I want to play for fun, play online, like keep in touch with people, um, whatever. But at some point, like I do want to have a family. Like I have been kind of lazy about my career in certain ways, and like it's okay, as far as like financially and like the things, like I'm treading water, but like, I used to have a lot of dreams with my music, and I don't want to just ruin all the, like I worked really hard to get where I did with that as well. And there is kind of some competition between music and gaming, because it's like they both require a lot of practice. They both are me using my hands all day. It's like I can do both, but it's hard to like really be going super hard at both at once, in my opinion. So, for right now, I don't know exactly what it's going to look like. I'm definitely going to continue competing hard. Like I'm going to come to Third Strike. I'm going to Jazzy Finale for starters. Very excited. I'm going to Third Strike Open. I'm very excited. If they do Coop again, I'm like 99% sure I'm going to go to Coop again. Um, as far as my personal goals, I mean, it's a little like I feel a little awkward talking about it because like, you know, I don't know how people perceive me. Like, there's definitely been times when I've wanted to like achieve a certain like respect, in the scene or whatever. But I feel like what I've done already, just objectively on paper, in terms of my tournament placings and, different things, is like more than I would have dreamed of. Like I knew, but that's why I came back. I knew I could be a great player. Like I knew that. And I felt always like I had sort of it was like a loose end in my life that like I had walked away cuz like when I played Street Fighter 4, like I had a couple of noteworthy local performances, and like the locals in Street Fighter 4 were like nuts back then in New York. So like I actually did surprisingly well at the first Evo. Monica's home, so the dog's gonna
And my
go
dogs are going.
wild.
My dogs are going wild over here
But
too.
I you know, I had a couple nice performances, but I never really like put in the work or put myself out there enough with like travel and like, just being a part of the scene. So I feel like I've kind of done that now. Like what I've done, I mean, this is perfect evidence. Like I'm on a Third Strike podcast. Like this is awesome, I'm a part of it. Um so I feel, and I'm hoping that going forward, because I think I've definitely struggled with like losses at times. I've struggled with like um feeling a lot of pressure, and I'm trying to internalize that like, it's like you've done good, man. Like no matter what happens, like you've done good. Like have fun, whatever, but I still feel like my ceiling is higher. I feel like I'm still improving a lot. Like I haven't played that long, and I feel like I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying improving. I'm excited to improve. Um so we'll see. One of these years, I mean, I'm 39. Although I was surprised Boss and Mokutaru are 42. So that made me feel better. Um
Sir
but
47.
yeah, dude, and
Yeah,
he's crushing it. He's been
he's a
winning like a
beast.
lot of tournaments over
Um,
there.
um,
So, we'll see. I mean, for now, it's kind of like I'm definitely going to keep playing hard. I'm kind of like extending my personal contract with myself out, another however long. Probably through at least another coop, another jazzy, whatever. I'm going to try to find some more balance. I think once you've reached a certain level, it's also like you can find a little more balance, because like my first year back, I was like really working hard to improve, and I'll try to find some balance. I'd like to create some more content. I don't know if you guys know about it, but I did a few of these spiritual Street Fighter videos, kind of about like mentality and like how to handle different things, losing and stuff like that. So I'd like to do some more of that, um, and maybe interview some people about that stuff, because for me it's also more fun. Like if I'm only focused on like my tournament performances and like I have to win, like that's when I can get too in my head. Whereas if I am like giving back something to the scene, like connecting with others, like that kind of makes it feel, it keeps it in perspective and like makes it, kind of healthy, a bit healthier. So I'd like to do some more content, and yeah, like I guess those are kind of my thoughts. For I can't stop now. That's kind of all I know. And one day I think I'm gonna be more like I don't know who a good analogy is, but like the guy that like plays online some but still comes out, it's always been hard for me to keep things in balance, you know, like I'm an obsessive guy, so that's sort of part of why I stopped playing the last time is like it's kind of all I want to do. So like I don't know what it'll look like to become that kind of more like just the veteran who comes out when he can, you know, but I hope to be that guy like in some amount of time, but that time is not yet. Right now I'm still hungry.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's a common thing. A lot of people, a lot of the players who have become kind of stronger in this game uh, do have an obsessive component to it, and we all have these real life responsibilities and goals that you always have to kind of balance. It'd be great if you were independently wealthy. I think I've heard KO is like that. Like KO's family is very wealthy, and KO just played this game for nonstop for hours for like 10 years or something, and that's why he's like the goat. That's not
Yeah.
most of us, so all understandable. We're all kind of balancing a lot of things.
Yeah, and I mentioned my steel hammer joke to you, Lance, that um I'll start by saying I heard steel hammer. I think it was on you guys' podcast where he was talking about how crazy he is, to put it bluntly. And like he told it in a more humorous and sort of over the top manner than I probably would, but like everything he said about like whether it was like sweating every game on Fightcade or just like um the crushing disappointment of his losses, like and just him like I have to do this, like I related it might be a little different, but my own flavor of it, but I basically every single thing he said I related to. And I do think that like just getting more experience, like a couple years ago it would be, or even 1 year ago, I mean I was so inexperienced in tournaments even like 1 year ago, and I would like play great on some online tournament and like win it or like lose to some like really top player, and I'd feel like, I've got this, like I'm awesome, and then like the next day I like, you know, get tilted and get steamrolled in like some laggy set to like someone I feel like I should beat, and I'm just like in shambles, and I've done a lot of work. I've literally talked to my therapist about this. um like I've done a lot of work on just trying to like even it out a bit. It's like I have a great tournament. That's awesome, but it doesn't mean, you know, I'm the same player that I was beforehand. If I sometimes you have a bad night and you get a bad matchup and you don't do so well, and it's first to two. It's really short, and I know that's cope and excuses, but like it happens, and it's like, hey, I'm the same guy I was beforehand. So I think I've reached, you know, I've definitely made progress in terms of being a little healthier with it, but I still like when I'm competing, I mean, like the couple weeks before Jazzy, like best believe, like I'm gonna be eating, breathing, sleeping third strike, and so when I'm doing that, yeah, there's just only so much time in your life, and so I do have other life goals, and yeah, eventually I'm gonna try to, you know, be the like elder statesman guy, or who knows, maybe I've thought about doing more behind the scenes stuff. Like I'd love to, you know, help out with tournaments or whatever. There's all sorts of ways. That's something that's really cool. Like there's so many ways you can contribute to this community, whether it's being a TO, like creating content, being the guy that like gets people together, to play. Like you guys were talking about Ryan earlier, like being that person. There's so much you can do. So yeah, we'll see what the future holds. But yeah, for now, I'm amped to keep playing. I'm trying to not, for example, I haven't qualified for Jazzy finale yet. I really want to, but I'm also trying really hard at this point. It's like I've got some good results under my belt. I want better ones. I mean, I'd love to like win Jazzy. I'd love to win everything, but I've got some good results and I'm trying to focus on improving. I'm trying to focus on gameplay. I'm trying to focus on just being the best player that I can be. And whatever happens with that, I think it'll be fun and I can, hopefully have some good clips for Twitter.
Yeah, that's
That'll,
awesome.
that'll make people laugh, make people smile. It's fun when people enjoy your play, you know.
Mhm. That's awesome. No, I agree. I think there's a lot of different ways to contribute, and it's good to celebrate all the different ways. I've thought about it only, just within the framework of the Dallas scene and how many different, because I think I don't know who I said this to a couple of years ago. I was like, yeah, like it's not like, because when I first moved to Dallas, there was like, it's kind of a resurgence, and a couple of people from outside the scene had kind of been like, "Oh, Lance, you moved to Dallas, and now they're this big scene," and I kind of let them know at the time it's not really like that. Like I've had my part. I've played specific roles with like helping Dallas improve, but I think about all the roles that all the people have taken on, right? So we're talking like Ray and Cedric have been um, huge parts of the community. Alex the Machine is that guy who gets everyone to go together. Now Cho is that guy who kind of gets everyone to go together, right? Like everyone has something to contribute, and we're a small enough scene where every contribution matters and it makes a visible impact. So yeah, I love that.
I think that's something that's awesome about the Third Strike scene, both locally but also like nationally and worldwide, where like it's such a great middle ground where I mean I'd love for it to be bigger, but like it's big enough that it feels important, at least to me. I mean, I'm biased because I'm playing it, but I think it's important and like super cool. It's not just like a few guys playing in a basement. Like this is some of this is a big deal, but it's also small enough that like you can matter,
Yeah.
in whatever way you want to contribute. And to your point, it's to me what you describe, it almost sounds like a band, where it's like you've got the front man that's like he's the David Lee Roth guy, like that's Alex the Machine or like whatever, and you've
Oh
got
no,
like
Alex the Machine
yeah,
is our front man.
Alex the Machine
yeah,
in spandex, dude. With
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
Axis,
that's so
the
good.
Axis leather pants, and then you've got like the tech guy. Like I think about someone like Shotokan, dude. Like his
Yeah,
videos are fucking wild.
yeah,
Like it's and every time in a Discord, it's like you ask any like really technical question, and Shotokan just like appears, like
yeah.
with the answer.
Well,
You
let
know?
me.
Let me tell
That's
you about this
actually
double
+2,
option
sir.
select.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's
Shouts to
so
Colin.
cool. Like
Yep.
it's such a gift that he's given us,
Yep.
and like that personality, like different is he from Alex the Machine, or like whatever. But like there are these different personalities. Like some people are, and like we've touched on this like a little bit, but like some people yeah, they're going to get everybody energized. The hype and the banter is like their thing. I'm a little bit more like the nice guy, but those things are going to resonate with different people. Like some people are going to see the hype guy and be like, this is cool, I want to be a part of this. And other people, they're going to, they need a more like warm welcoming vibe, to feel comfortable. So like we all have, these different, we're all little snowflakes, that can have our own little contribution.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Um, so that's the end of all of our planned questions. Now we have some questions we've been collecting from the chat for the last 2 hours, and then we'll have some rapid fire questions at the end. Ray, you want to do handle the chat questions?
Yeah, yeah. I can do the chat questions. So, Nika Ko asks, what was your transition going from Street Fighter 4 back to Third Strike? And I'm
Hmm.
curious to see what you say here, just because I was a Street Fighter 4 player for a very long time. So, I want to
Oh,
hear
I
what you
didn't.
have to say. Yep.
Um, it was noticeable that Third Strike was faster.
Mhm.
Um, and that was something I liked. And it's really funny because me, so Frankie and I both independently missed our flights leaving Evo. It was so funny because like Street Fighter 6 finals was happening and Frankie's flight was Sunday night, and we had like a kind of bro out moment of like, this weekend was like fucking legendary, man. Yeah, like, we'll be in touch. And he left, and I was feeling kind of sad because like a lot of the people had left, and he misses his flight. So then he's like, I'm coming back to the hotel. It's like, all right, party. So then the next morning, I I got to the airport like 55 minutes before my flight, which was like a little dicey, but I felt okay about it. But Spirit Airline, I hadn't checked in on my phone, and Spirit Airlines had given away my
Yeah,
so,
classic
so
Spirit.
then I call him. I'm like, guess who's on the way back to the hotel? Anyway, that's a funny sidebar. So we end up Mustard Back was staying an extra day, and we stayed with him. And me, uh, Mustard Back, Frankie, and then we were so tired. Like I cannot overemphasize how tired we were. And we're sitting in the lobby just like drinking coffee, waiting for Mustard Back to get back from something. And Bunch, David Casa Bunch
Yeah.
walks by. We're like, "Oh, what's up?" We play Third Strike. We do Fightcade in the hotel room for like 3 hours. Then we switch to Street Fighter 4. So this is the point. This is why I felt at liberty to tell that little anecdote. So I'm playing Street Fighter 4 for the first time in like 10 years. And I was really surprised. It felt a lot faster than I remembered because the modern games are like molasses. Like Street Fighter 6 is so slow. So I was struck. It was like, wow, Street Fighter 4 wasn't as slow as I remembered. Anyway, that was the whole point of that story. But Third Strike was faster. To be maybe I don't know if like I just have a different mentality or like, you know, I don't know how it seems, but like we had the debate that there was the whole K-Brad thing and like, oh, the Shoryu
Right way
airplane.
to play. Right
Yeah.
way to play. Yeah.
And but to me, and I think it also ties in with like the my whole thing of like I didn't feel like Japan played that differently. Um and I don't know if it's just the way I perceive the game. I'm not saying I'm like right or wrong, but to me like it just felt like a different system to learn, I mean, to me it felt like, those basic fundamentals of like mind games, spacing, like all those things. They're and I know Frankie recently told me that he still sees some Street Fighter 4 in my play. So, maybe there's some things I don't see. But like to me, it was just a matter of like understanding the new mechanics. There were definitely, a few noteworthy. Obviously, there's parry, which
Mhm.
we don't even need to go into that. It adds a layer on everything, which I love. By the way, I love. To me, Third Strike just feels like the other Street Fighter games, but with like a whole other layer. And to me, it doesn't feel like I'm losing anything. Like to me, the anti-air Shoryu parry, that doesn't feel like I'm losing anything. It feels like I'm gaining something. It just feels like we're gaining more levels of like Yomi and like timing and mix-ups. But anyways, there's pairing, so I had to learn, about that. Just different moves that are like safer or, like for example, in Street Fighter 4, I was playing Akuma and played Akuma in Third Strike as well. So like I had to just kind of compare the move sets. And so like, heavy kick Tatsu is like really strong in Third Strike. Like heavy kick Tatsu sucks in Street Fighter 4. Um like a big one is in Street Fighter 4 the command normal dive kick like pretty much sucks. It's more about the demon flip
Like,
dive kick.
yeah,
Whereas in Third Strike the command dive kick is like fast as
godlike.
shit. And
Yeah.
yeah, like it was like, well, this is nice, So just things like that. But one other than parry, which is of course like a huge difference, I would say the turns, like Street Fighter 4 turns, Street Fighter 4 felt like the start of something that has gotten even more extreme that I don't like. Like the Street Fighter 6 turns just feel like endless. You know, it's like jab, jab, stand jab, walk forward, medium kick, drive rush, jab, jab, throw attempt. It's like the turns feel really long. And if you're very, very good and bold, you know, you can figure out some ways to make a little bit longer turns in Third Strike. But for the most part, it's like your hit confirms are one button or like short, short, or like, you know, there are a few characters with three light button move, you know, confirms, but like the turns are a lot shorter. Third Strike feels more scrambly, which I also like. You know, there's just the execution is a lot harder, which obviously it can be frustrating, but in general, I think it's fun that like you can you really have to focus to get that reversal. I mean, I still miss reversals sometimes that, and it as Akuma, you might lose, you know, and whereas in Street Fighter 4, you're just literally wiggling the stick and you don't even have to
Turning.
do it fast. Um, so that was it. But again, I grew up playing Street Fighter 2 where the inputs were like hard as fuck.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like, oh, this is actually kind of a nice return to that. Um, you know, what else? Yeah, I think the speed, like dashing, I love. From what I understand, dashing is better in Third Strike. You know, obviously Street Fighter 4 had the back dash but I'm talking forward dashing. Third Strike has like the best dashing of any Street Fighter game that I know of. Maybe Alpha had a good one, but like I really love that. That gets the pace kind of fast. So, you know, but yeah, to me overall, like I'm more of the belief that fighting games are more similar than they are different. And you're really kind of using like you're playing with space, you're playing with time, you're playing with risk reward, you're trying to trick the opponent. So, you know, it's just a matter of exploring how you want to do that in whatever given system, you know, and with your character.
Yeah. As a 4 player, like I played 4 for a long time before I went back to Third Strike. I feel like 4 is. I feel like I have center blocks on my feet sometimes when I play that game. I always use the example like Ken when you play Ken Third Strike, you throw someone, they tech roll, and it's like we're right back into it, right? Like we're right back into decision making. Where like you play Ken in Street Fighter 4 and you got 10 hook, and he fucking throws them, and then it's literally just like I don't know 3 seconds of like here comes the cross up left right let's guess. But
Yeah.
it's like it feels like the game stops when you throw someone in Street Fighter 4 sometimes. And I know later on they added like delayed and all that other stuff, but yeah, so that part of it just feels. I mean, I love Street Fighter 4. It's probably my second favorite fighting game of all time. But when I play Third Strike, though, it's like, oh, I have complete control over my character. Like I can play at the pace I want to, whereas I feel like Street Fighter 4's sometime the pace feels like hindered by the game engine. So yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know. But
The,
4's a
the
good game. It's a
movement
good game. It's not a bad game, but
the movement in Third Strike is so good. Like, and you got super jumps. That's another, like, to me, Third Strike, it really does feel like, you know, they took Street Fighter to the most advanced level just as far as certain things. Like, obviously, there are more mechanics now, but when you, like, you've got universal overhead. I love universal overhead. It's just like this goofy ass little move that, like, it's a different way to literally move, you know, around the screen. It changes up the spacing. So you've got super jump, you've got universal overhead, you've got the different wake up timings for everybody. You've got the dashing that for most characters is like really strong. So and I'm sure there are other games, like when I watched Marvel 2, I remember at Evo '09, it was the first time I really watched Marvel 2. I watched all the finals, all day. And when I watched Marvel 2, it was, the same guys like Justin and Sanford who were really good at Street Fighter 4. And I was like, no wonder these guys are amazing at Street Fighter 4. Like, this Marvel game, like I can't even tell what's going on, like the speed. It's like Street Fighter 4 just felt like, yeah, a baby's game or something compared to it. But so I'm sure there are other games like Marvel that also have great movement, but I just haven't, you know, really played those. But
Yeah.
yeah, for a 2D game, Third Strike is just, yeah.
Mona Lisa,
Yeah.
perfection. All right. Next question here from Chosen. Who's Poe's favorite Goki?
Mm, I don't really have one. Like I said before, I have studied videos here and there. Like I would just what I did in my early part of my comeback was I would just go onto that Third Strike channel and just watch like random Goki matches, and just anything I saw, like whether it was a block string or this guy likes to run away a lot from this character, or like, a combo, I would just like jot it down. Um I mean, I was definitely the famous Kuroda versus Eno set. Like Kuroda's Goki was like really good. Um Honestly, KO at this point is up there. And Zabi, from playing him, he felt really strong to me. Like I felt he was in such control of like the timing and moving of everything. So he impressed me. And I've even studied, so a lot of the videos I've watched have been the American guys like Luke, number one Goki, Ty Law, I would study those guys. But if I had to say, I'll say KO, because he just is so fearless and like raw. But yeah, I think it's a little bit on purpose. Like I heard Woody Allen say he never watches modern films because he doesn't want to like copy anybody too much. And I think I have a little bit of that where I'm kind of like, I want to study it a little bit, but like I want to do my own thing. So I try to not, there's not like one guy.
Cool. Question from me actually. I wrote this one down earlier. I know you're a musician. Top five favorite bands all time. Can be in any order.
Led Zeppelin,
Okay.
the Beatles. I love those are like pretty much tied for first. They're kind of like my yin and yang. Not my yin and yang. My yin. Um, of the like improvisatory heavy music, and then the Beatles just songwriting and like creativity. Actually, this is a cool tie-in. The same people that I played fighting games with in the early 90s, like Mike, the manager of the comic strip, he
Mhm.
introduced me to Pearl Jam,
Oh,
and Pearl Jam just like got me, man. Like
yeah.
as like I just listened the guitar tone, the vocals, so Pearl Jam might be up there. Um One out of left field. And it's not does it need to be a band or just any musical?
Musician, anyone? Yep.
Um, I'll say, I love some classical stuff like
Mhm.
Beethoven. But I'll say for my orchestral, I'll say John Williams, the film composer. I love, 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 love him. I listen to it for fun. I'll
Yeah.
listen to like fucking Raiders of the Lost Ark when I'm working out or whatever. And lastly, I'll say Nobuo Uematsu, the Final Fantasy
Okay.
composer.
Sorry. Okay.
I haven't played an RPG. Like, so my two big gaming loves are fighting games and RPG. Like, when I stopped
Mhm.
playing fighting games, JRPGs filled that spot. And I still love them to death, but it's just, I'm old. I'm trying to like have a life and I'm playing Third Strike constantly, so I just haven't played one in a long time, but like I still will listen to like Final Fantasy VII soundtrack, Final Fantasy VI soundtrack. And I think as a musician, I actually learned, the game composers have a way of like conveying a mood in a very efficient way, like this is a battle song, like, or this is a sad song, and I think I've kind of like learned a lot from that as well.
Okay, now that we're on that topic, I have to ask, what are your top three Final Fantasy games?
Um, it's very close, but I started with 7. I got that for my 12th birthday, and it's in my top 3. But I went back, as I loved 7 immediately, and I went back and played the Super Nintendo ones. So I would probably say, I think objectively 6 was like the most groundbreaking and just like most incredible, like the mood it sets, the what they did on a fucking Super Nintendo, like to create a world like that. I'm putting 6 number 1, and second and third is going to be a tie with 7 and 4. I think 4 was also really cool. What are yours, if I can?
Oh, yeah, sure. Uh, Probably Tactics, and then 10, and then 9, I would say. I'm definitely like the PS1 to early PS2 era kind of guy.
9, I love 9, and I know Envy loves Tactics.
Yeah,
Great game.
yeah, really good. There's actually a big like Final Fantasy Tactics fan base within the Third Strike community.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Go ahead.
10 lost me a little bit because of like it just felt so different from what, because I had years and years of the Super Nintendo, and,
Hmm.
and I loved 8 and 9, but like 10 with the voice acting and the like hallway simulator
Sure.
aspect, it just I liked it, but it was kind of like I'm a little bit the old man on a porch, it's a little bit not like the old days kind of thing.
Yeah, no, for sure. Definitely makes sense. Yeah, I've always thought, I played 6 way after it came out, so I couldn't really appreciate its groundbreaking aspects. I mean, I just personally couldn't, but I can still like intellectually recognize it, right? Like I think the midpoint of the game, where they just blow everything up. I mean, that had to be insane when the game came out.
And the like, I mean, someone tries to commit suicide
Yeah.
in that game, and it's depicted so sincerely,
Yeah.
like they take it very seriously, and yeah, just when you add in, yeah, the music and like, yeah, the fact that there was no main character, which some people, you could knock that, you could say it's less cohesive because of that, but to me, and I love the steampunk kind of
Hmm.
thing, like it felt like they created a world that was totally its own, which for a freaking Super Nintendo game I feel like the 90s gaming, like it was like the 60s for music, where it's
Hmm.
just like so much, and I'm biased because I grew up in it, but it's like the Legend of Zelda games that were coming out, the Final Fantasy, Street Fighter 2 fucking changed the world. Like, um, Metal Gear Solid, like these gaming went from like Pong almost, it was like barely above Pong to then like these like artistic masterpieces. So yeah, it was a great time.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think for like from 90 to like 2005 to me, that just I don't know if 2005 is really the cutoff, but like in my brain, I mean that's when I grew up, so I'm sure people to say it's just nostalgia for when you grew up with the games you grew up in, but it felt very magical. It felt like something creative was happening all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
New genre, like if you look at most of the genres that are played today, even StarCraft, I mean we could just go on and on, like um were kind of like they really came into their own in that time.
Yeah. Ray, you have a
All
Final
right.
Fantasy game you like?
I was a PS1 kid, so I mean 7 was like life changing for me. I played the shit out of 7. like straight through. I think I was probably 11, 12, somewhere in there when I got it for the first time. And then Tactics was amazing too. Uh, and then I'd probably just play 8. I tried playing 10. Like my wife loves 10. I cannot stand that game. Like I hate the character design. It's just not for me. Like I can't. I argue with her all the time because I try to
You
get her
don't
to
like
play.
Alpha?
I tried to get her to play 7. And she's like, no, this isn't. This sucks. And I'm like, 10 sucks. Like, get out of here with that. So, but yeah,
Well,
7 and Tactics for me. So,
it's a testament to your love that you can overcome that
of
kind of
course, yeah.
disagreement.
Oh, we differ on Zelda too. Like, our Zelda tastes are entirely different. So, yeah. But it's great. It's great. But yeah, 7 Tactics for me. Those two. 8 I liked when I was a kid, and I tried to play it again, and I was like, I don't like this anymore. So,
Eight's really
um,
interesting. It's very like obviously it's the black sheep of the PS1 trilogy.
yeah.
You
I
can
was like,
really
oh,
just break it wide open.
Gunblade, dude, so cool. Like
Gunblade's
the
hard.
Gunblade. Oh my
Yeah,
god! And now that I'm
that intro
older,
scene where like they're having the sword fight, the
yeah,
Gunblade sword fight, and he cuts him in the face, and you're like, oh man, what a badass game this is gonna be.
yeah,
The music and
it's
eight
great. The
has
score is great. Yeah,
the score is fucking fire, and
yeah,
it also kind of has a little bit of the Final Fantasy VI thing going on to me, where it's like it's a cool world. Like I
yeah.
feel like the atmosphere of it is really cool, but it is a little bit less. I feel like it doesn't come together quite as well as like 7 and 9.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense.
All right. Moving on. Next question we got from Room 427. Which U.S. scene is your favorite 3S scene and why? I have a feeling I know the answer to this one, but we'll throw it out there. They're not gonna let you back if you say anything different. So,
But do you mean New York won't let me
in New
back?
York, yeah.
Yeah. No, I love my scene, you know.
Mm.
Like there've been so many guys, some of whom, don't even come out like all that much. Like someone who's really helped me a lot, that I don't give enough credit to is Hold That. And I've only actually seen him offline like a few times since I came back. I knew him a little bit from my first time, but he would just tell me he believed in me, in his own way, like you've got the eye of the tiger, like that kind of thing. And man, when you're at least for me, like as I've been trying to get better, like that stuff goes a long way, just having that. I'm really happy I've gotten close, closer with some of the other guys like Frankie. I'm getting to know Ahmed better. He's been coming out a lot, and unfortunately, he's going back to. Unfortunately for us, he's going to Yemen for like the rest of the year pretty soon. But I think we're gonna do like a kind of an event, like Ahmed plays everyone first to five
Kumite?
kind of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. Also known as a kumite. Thank
Yeah.
you. And yeah, so I love my scene. I've never been in any other scene, and it's really cool that with Fightcade and traveling, you can really, like I feel like I have a lot of friends in your scene. Like I've gotten to know like Amir and all sorts of just random folks, the Chicago guys, but I only know my scene. I love my scene, and I can't imagine, from really all the way going back to when like 3 weeks after getting the console version of Street Fighter 4, I went down to Chinatown Fair, and I don't remember who was there, but there were some top players there, right? And I was just, I was hooked in. It's like this is New York, and I have to say the skill, and it's not even the quantity. Like you guys have, I think more active players than we do, but there's just something in the water here, man. We've we've got it going on. There's a lot of really, really, really good players.
Yeah, when I went up
And
there to
it,
visit in January, like I could see the camaraderie between everyone and how hyped and everyone was for each other when they were playing. So, yeah, New York scene's great.
and it trickles down. I really was talking to Nika and some other guys about this the other day. Like honestly, like, and I'm not trying to diminish the advice I've gotten, because I have gotten some like really helpful gameplay advice, but like to me, most of it, it's like it's the emotional support, and also just like when you're around other top players, it feels more normal. You know, like there's something like there are these statistics where certain families have had like 7 people go to the NFL or whatever, like cousins and brothers and stuff. And some of that's genetics, but it's also kind of like, oh, well, Uncle Barry and, Joey and my cousins, they're all in the NFL. So, like, why can't I do that? So it's like when you're around top players like that regularly, you see how they play, you can kind of not copy and paste, but just kind of get a sense of what it's like. And it also, as you get to know them, you become friends with them. It's like, at least for me, it makes it feel more attainable than if you're like in Idaho and you're just watching, like you talked about being starstruck, if you're in Idaho and you're just watching videos of like, Amir and Nikakea, like you go to the tournament, like you're probably, even if you're really good, like you're gonna get blown away probably just because you haven't, I don't know, there's something about being around it that like makes you, not that it rubs, yeah, it kind of rubs off on you, or you feel this extra confidence from just being in that. Music's the same, when you play with great players, you become friends with great, it's like it can't help but build your confidence. So I think a lot of our success, the work that like Lloyd, Frankie, and Anthony did, Ahmed, it keeps trickling down, Dice K. So
Yeah, I think that's a big part of scene building is just building an infrastructure, right? Because you never want a scene or anything in general to be reliant on one or two people, right? So you all collectively build a culture together, and then people blossom within that culture, and then they can help others, right? It becomes very cohesive, and again, something where everyone can kind of participate and contribute in. But you build like I think you build winning cultures essentially, right? Like obviously historically, LA and New York have been by far the most winning cities in American Third Strike. Dallas is on the come up, still kind of a newer scene. But essentially it's just you're just building a culture. You're building it all collectively. So yeah.
All right, next question. Seba. I don't know how to pronounce the last name of it, but Seba something. What handsome South American player helped you become more familiar with Urian?
that's Zebes,
Okay, okay.
Chilean player. Um, that's both the questioner and also the answer. Um, to give just a 30-second, real answer to that. So I met Zebes pretty early on in my comeback. He was in Pennsylvania because his wife was getting a graduate degree there, and so he's from Chile, and he started playing Third Strike in Chile, but he was here for like a year, and we had like low ping. He's A rank Urian, so we played a lot. Um, and we just hit it off. We started like texting, and eventually he came to the city and we met. He hung out with Steelhammer. He's big in the Urian Discord. Um, and he went back to Chile, but we just like kept texting and we still talk all the time. He's the one who really turned me on. I wasn't surprised by the Chileans at Evo because he had told me all about those guys, and Chile's fighting game scene is like unbelievable. In Third Strike and in other games, they've got this young kid in Street Fighter 6. Do you guys know about this?
You're talking
Oh,
about
I've
Kai's
seen him.
arc?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Blaze or Blaz or
Oh, okay.
whatever. He's like 15 years old, and he is like, he won a huge tournament, and he just got like fourth at like Combo Breaker and beat like legends.
Yeah.
So yeah. And last thing, so Chile, look out for Chile. And then to plug Zebes, he is doing the official poster for I think I can say this. Um but for the Jazzy finale this year. It hasn't
Yeah,
been
yeah.
released yet, but it's like It looks absolutely incredible. So sign up for, if you haven't, sign up and get the like tier 2 or whatever that you need to get the poster, and they're going to be on sale. And Zebez is a really, really great person and a great player, and I think he should become, like, you'll see his art. He's a professional artist, so it's like really, really, really good, and I think he should get more gigs like doing this kind of stuff. So let's all support his poster, and I think you'll really like it.
Yeah, he did the Urian versus the World artwork as well. So
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
Familiar.
Steelhammer has one of his Urian things,
Yeah.
framed up by his cab. So
Okay.
I just need to do an Akuma song. I'll do an Akuma theme and start a Discord.
All right. Last question, and then we'll do the rapid fire one. So, Migaru asks, what advice would you give an aspiring player who wants to reach the highest level?
A what player?
An expiring player.
Aspiring.
Expiring?
Yeah,
Aspiring. Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Aspiring.
If they're
Am I-
expiring, they're
okay.
dying. We don't really care to give them
I thought
advice.
It's like, does he mean someone who's like on their last, they're 45 and trying to no, I would say the biggest thing is like playing intentionally. I have my infamous note file, and it's literally like mentally ill, okay? It's literally like every thought that I've ever had about and it's some of it's really organized, and some of it's just like block more, like be strong, believe in yourself. Like it's just so much stuff. And I pretty much have it whittled down to like a few. I have matchup sections, and um also just sort of like a game plan section that reminds me of like different Oki things I can do and different things to watch, different anti-airs. Like I have just a list of anti-airs, like early Shoryu, late Shoryu, dash under, mash jab if they like to parry.
We lose Poe.
Oh, looks like it. No one will ever know what else is on the list.
All right.
Some secrets can't be told.
Hopefully, he hops back in. Got 22 people in the chat. What's up, guys? How's it going?
It's like Doctor
Lance,
Who.
you wanna play a song or something?
It's like Doctor Who. He's like, there's some secrets I can never tell.
Just disappears.
Yeah. Who's your favorite Doctor from the Doctor Who series, Ray?
Oh, I don't watch that at all. I never will, sir.
Well, okay.
It looks so bad. I don't know how you watch that.
You're ignorant. It was
I am
good.
very
It was good
ignorant,
for
sir.
like 15 years. I'll say that. It was good. New Who?
Yeah, no one watches Doctor Who. This is America. Correct. Yes, exactly. I'm gonna watch Doctor Who, dude. Get out of here with that, dude. Watch Walker, Texas Ranger, dude. What's your
Okay.
favorite episode of that?
I don't know. Oh, yeah, what's your favorite Lord of the Rings movie, Ray?
None of them, dude. I'm not watching it, dude. It takes too long to get out of the Shire.
Wow. Did we just lose Poe for the end of the podcast?
I think Poe just dipped, dude. He's probably hogging back in.
TNG character.
TNG's Next Generation?
Yeah,
Am
Next
I-
Generation.
Look at me, dude. I'm a
Yeah,
fucking nerd.
I like Worf. I like the Klingon episodes. Kind of cheesy, but DS9 has better
Yeah.
characters. I'll say that. Cisco's pretty sick. Oh, are
Oh,
we
we
getting
got Poe
getting a
back.
return?
We got
Hello.
Poe on the phone.
Nice, welcome back.
Yeah. I think my Wi-Fi went down.
Okay.
But I know we're wrapping up.
Yeah.
So basically, yeah, a list of anti-air. You got the idea. All the different, because there's lots of them. So especially when I was first in my comeback, that was one of the things I was like, I want to do it right this time. Like I want to. I'm gonna use training mode. Like every single time there was, because Third Strike system mechanics are weird. Some of, I mean, every fighting game hasn't, but it was stuff like I didn't know what you could punish on parry or not, or what, like how the pre-jump frames functioned and things like that. And this is part of why, I would read that stuff, but I also, um, I'm a big believer in just like testing it yourself, like learn, you should be observing in the game what it is you don't understand. And then, of course, if you can get a quick answer, that's fine. But like, I would really experiment, and I would practice things like, okay, if I do a meaty, close, heavy punch, am I in throw range after that? And then it's like, oh no, I'm definitely not, but oh, if I do a meaty, close, medium kick, I'm still not in throw range, but I'm like really close to Kara. I'm like basically in Kara throw range. So, I really tried to like, if there was ever anything I had a question about, don't wait. Just as soon as you finish that set or like later tonight, go investigate it and like find out. So yeah, I think just when you're playing, you know, trying to, experiment, trying to look for different solutions to things, don't just like, keep doing, even if you're winning, don't just keep doing the same things. And I'm not saying like, don't ever wake up super, or like, you can do that stuff, but like try different things. Be really intentional. If there are tactics you're struggling with, like note that and explore things you can do right away. I like writing that stuff down. You don't have to. But yeah, just playing intentionally and keeping it fun, because like there have been times when I put a lot of pressure on myself and it was becoming less fun, and like I wasn't sure if I was going to keep playing. And like no matter how good you get, you can't get better if you're not playing, because you quit. you know like keep it fun, and play great players, play long sets against great players, and I pretty much always try to play the best people I can at any given time. And you need to play a mix, also play people you're better than, so then you can, practice things. But in general, play good players.
Right. Okay. All right. So we got some rapid fire questions here. Lance, you want to field these?
Oh, sure. Okay. Last few rapid fire questions. First one. What are your top 5 favorite video games of all time?
Street Fighter 3, Third Strike, Fight for the Future. um Final Fantasy 6. um Metal Gear Solid 1 blew me away.
Mm-hmm.
I got chills in those plot twists.
Yeah.
So fucking good. Um I'll say, just to keep it diverse, um like NCAA football 99.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
um And again, I could just name like Street Fighter 2 and all these, other Final Fantasy games, but um, to keep it diverse, I'll also say Super Mario World. Even my dad loved playing that. We had good times with that.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Uh, Dream Cooperation Cup team. This can either be, the theoretical best team you could ever imagine, or it could be the team that you would want to most team with. Your favorite. I'm gonna go to co-op and I'm gonna team with all of my favorite people. What would it look like?
Oh man, Frankie, Billy Kane, um, Flair. He hasn't. I've actually haven't met Flair yet, but we used to just play all these like 1 a.m. sets that were so crazy, and we just like hit it off. And I love Flair. Um, um, there's so many. It's awkward. I forgot this question was coming, and I don't want to leave it.
No, you're good.
Yeah, there's so many. I could choose. Nika KO would be awesome. Like, who else? Amir would be awesome. But I'll say Zebez, and I'll close it out with Kuroda because why not? Let's just put
Why not?
Kuroda as anchor.
Sure. Okay. Okay. Um. So, last question: aliens are coming down. They're going to exterminate all life on Earth. If we don't win a first to one, we're going to play one game versus the aliens for everything. The aliens are pretty good at third strike. Who is the person you're sending up to play one game for your life and for the fate of the entire world?
Can they train and be peak?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Like if they can train for a bit, or it's like their peak strength. I know this answer is going to rub some people the wrong way,
Uh
but Daigo Umehara.
oh. Oh, wow. Okay.
All right.
Sure.
I
That's not a
mean,
bad one. That's not a bad one.
I'm a fanboy. I feel like just he was amazing at his peak, and I just feel like his ability to like adapt and be cool and I don't know, man. I just have that image of him winning Coop for Nuki over KO
Mm-hmm.
when he and yeah, I could look in his eyes and be like, "You've got this, brother." Like, and win or lose, it's cool. I trust you.
Okay. Yeah.
I love it. Love it.
Okay. That's all of our rapid fire
All right.
questions. Now, I believe there's an announcement before we go. Ray, do you want to do that?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, we gotta announce and I want to say thank you to Poe. He kind of facilitated this and kind of made this happen and really spoke it into existence. So, Hebo Ryu from Koenji, plays at Koenji all the time, is gonna be joining us for the Third Strike Open. So he's actually gonna be flying out here to play on his own dime. He just Poe's hyped it up. He's seen the footage from last year, Genki and everything. He wants to come out here and experience the Third Strike Open. So happy to have him. So he's gonna be joining us for that. We still have another announcement of another Japanese player that's going to be coming in the next couple of weeks. So once I get that, we'll announce that. But yeah, Heba Rio is sick. Great footage. Cool guy. I met him at Koenchi when I went out there and got to play him in their tournaments that they have. Ride sport bikes, so like he's me and him are already kind of bonded on that because he's all about the sport bike life as well. But yeah, just great guy. So
it's can be the last thing I say as far as I'm concerned. I don't want to ask if I have the record yet, but um basically for longest podcast we were joking about for those
no,
who
you're
missed
good.
that.
We're pretty close.
But Hebo Ryu, I met him at Koenji. It was crazy, man. It was like we were fated to play each other. We played in like every tournament, including Coop. And he beat me in every tournament, but every time after we would then have like these crazy back and forth sets. And at Coop, I had such a good game plan. I perfected him the first round, and then I had him on chip and I fucked it up, and he won that round, and then he won the last round. But anyway, we were joking the whole 2 weeks that we had like this kind of like friendly rivalry going on, and I really liked him. He's an amazing player. When I tweeted about him, I'm so ignorant that I didn't know who he was. Like again, I haven't been the biggest Japanese follower. And like when I mentioned him, I was like, I'm unfamiliar with this guy, but he's like amazing. And all these people were like, how do you not know who Hebo Ryu is? He's like
Yeah.
really famous. But if you're a dumbass like me, and want to learn more about him, he played a bunch of first to tens at Newton against Mokutaro, 5-star, Cooney, lots of them. He is a fantastic Ken. His style is like really hype. He's a great guy. Has he been to America before? Do you know?
No,
I
I
don't
don't
think
think so.
so.
I was
Okay.
talking to him today, and no.
Well, this will sound cheesy, but I just had this intuition because, like, going into it, there were like people, I was thinking about who maybe you guys could bring in. I was for a sponsored flight, and I knew that you guys had already the sponsored flights were accounted for. But and like Kyoshiro is going to be, bringing more Japanese players over. So I kind of had my eyes peeled, and I just had this moment of inspiration. I was like, it's Hebo Ryu. Like he should come to Dallas, and he's fucking coming. I think it's gonna mean a lot to him. I think it's gonna add so much to the event, and people are gonna really enjoy playing him and watching him. So like, I just, as if the Japan trip couldn't have been any better. Now like he's coming, and I'm just so excited.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, it's gonna
awesome.
be a sick weekend. Great weekend.
Yeah,
So
I had played Hebo Ryu, and the only Maniacs I ever entered, just like 5 years ago, I teamed with B-Tran and Kang Exodus, and Hebo Ryu OCV'd our entire team. So I know Kang wants his revenge. Maybe I'll get my revenge as well. We'll see.
um,
I can't wait.
Yep.
no, but excited to have him. He'll be joining Yamoda as far as like Japanese guest, and then like I said, we still have another one to announce for as far as sponsored flight goes. So we'll be doing that soon. Just kind of piggybacking off the sponsor thing too. I just want to say that the Third Strike Open it's very grassroots. There is no sponsors. The sponsor is literally me. And then the events that we do. Arcade runs events. I run events out of my home. I take donations and everything for, to pay for the players' flights and then sticks and venues and all that other fun stuff. So I'll be doing a donation stream on June 7th. I'm going to be running a tournament here at the house called Kegas. It's a yearly event that I do every year where basically buy a keg of beer and we just play Third Strike all night and do that. So we're going to run a 2v2 tournament that night. We'll have a keg of beer for everybody attending in person. We'll be taking donations if anybody wants to help donate. If you guys just sign up and come to the event, that's a donation is enough for me. But if you can't make it, or if you wanted to see more Japanese players, throw a couple bucks my way. Definitely would appreciate it. I'll be posting all those links here shortly. But yeah, June 7th, tune in for Kegas. We'll have a 2v2 tournament. Me and Sunny will be winning this thing. I don't know who Lance plans on picking,
I
but
can I can play by myself on a team and beat both
oh
of
my
you.
god,
Give me
dude,
a
shut
break.
up. So me and Sunny will be winning it. We'll be running the stream, having a good time, and then yeah, just keep your eyes peeled on Twitter. More announcements coming soon in regards to 3SO. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got. Closing
Although
thoughts from this?
all donations will go either to renting the cabs or to flying in Japanese players, right?
Yeah, yeah, pretty
So
much. Yeah,
if we got an
everything
extra
goes down.
$1,000, then we would look into flying a third player, presumably.
Yeah, yeah, because it's some of the money is like I said, I'm fronting most of the money, and then some of the tournaments and stuff that I do that I take entry fees for, that all goes straight to the open. So whenever I'm getting donations or people are doing tournaments, it's like literally going right back into the community to try to get Japanese players out here and cab rentals and all that stuff because it's not cheap, boys. It's not
Yeah,
cheap.
yeah.
So
No donations go
um,
directly into Ray's pocket. Ray's already come out of pocket thousands of dollars. So it's
yeah,
all
yeah,
going to.
I could have went to Japan a couple of times already and played them over there, but I like to bring it to the US and give people that experience, and honestly just throw a good experience for my community as well. Like the open last year was like it was awesome. It was really good to see. It was a lot of work, a lot of stress for me, but it was just awesome once it was all done. Like honestly, at one point I was like near tears. Like okay, it's done. Everyone had a good time. Like everything went off without a hitch. So yeah, I'm excited to do it again this year.
Awesome. Cool. Poe, any last
I give
thoughts?
Well, I just give rave reviews for Third Strike Open last year,
Mhm.
especially. I mean, I would have thought that was like your 10th time doing it. It was so great, and I really think that the U.S. Japan. I mean, I haven't been around, so I'm kind of speaking out of my ass, but
Mhm.
it feels like the U.S. Japan relations are like really in a great place right
Mhm.
now. Like they're coming over here. Like I had people asking me, like, would there be an opportunity to come? Like I know someone I talked to a lot was Boss, and like he
Mhm.
says he really wants. He just had a kid, so he's not
Mhm.
really in a place to come. But like he wants to come. Like they want to come here, and they're happy to see us go there.
Mhm.
And like it's really cool. So I think I really credit you guys with being a big part of that. It's really exciting, and I just want to thank you for having me on. This was so much fun. It was really an honor to get to. Thanks for just letting me go on and on.
Oh,
It's
you're
not
good.
every
It's
day I
been a
get to
pleasure,
do
brother.
this,
It's been
but
a pleasure. So,
it was really fun, and I really appreciate both of you.
yeah,
Awesome.
we'll see you at the finale, of course. Yeah, awesome. Good to hear. So, all right, boys. Well, we're gonna call it a night there. And stay tuned for, like I said, announcements on Twitter. Hopefully, we'll do another podcast soon. I think there was like a month gap between this one and Bubbles, right? Maybe a little bit
We're
longer.
averaging like 2 a year right now. We'll try to get another one out.
I'll try to step it up.
We'll try to get Ray a new webcam before then. Donate to 3SO to get Ray a new webcam.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, guys. Appreciate you.
Thanks, guys. Let me turn.
Roll Tide.